Act Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The meeting's called to order. You may notice that I'm standing and using a podium. I have a bit of a back problem. I have a herniated disc, and it's more comfortable for me to stand. Mr. Clerk, please conduct the prayer and flag salute.
God of the universe, look thou with favor upon these here assembled, and bestow thy guidance upon the members of the governing body in their deliberations. This we ask in thy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In event of an emergency, the proper method of exiting the council chambers is through the 3 doors in the rear of the room. Occupants should proceed down the staircase, out the front door, and move away from the area of the front steps. Any member of the public wishing to speak during the public comment session at the end of the meeting, please sign in on the white sheets provided in the front of the room. Any member of the public wishing to speak during the public hearing on the budget, please sign in on the blue sheets provided in front of the room. So we have 2 different colors for 2 different purposes. One's for general comments, and the blue one is to speak on the budget. Please turn off all cell phones. If you must make a call, please leave the chambers to do so. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Mr. Kalbas.
Here.
Koziel.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Armstead.
Here.
Cosby Hurling.
Here.
Sadowski.
Here.
Sheehy.
Here.
Yamikaitis. Frazier. Kaczynski.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here. All right, this evening we're going to, I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes from the public meeting May 15th, 2012.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
I have a couple edits for the minutes.
Please present your comments.
Okay, give me 2 seconds. There are no page numbers, but I'm going to hand this to the clerk. Mr. Henry Mack should be Mr. Henry Mack. Mr. Henry Mack is what the gentleman's name was from 1531 Bergen Avenue, not Matt. Under comments, my comments that we were talking about the budget committee, just a correction is that we should continue. My comments were that I hope the committee will continue to look for ways to save money and reduce the budget further. The community meeting for the 5th and 8th Ward was listed as the 18th, but it should be the 19th of August. And that is it for the May 15th.
Mr. Clerk, will you take note of those concerns?
Yes, sir.
May I have with that adjusted, may I have a motion for the minutes, please?
Who's doing
For May 15th.
it? 6 and 7.
Second.
Mr. Kalbas.
Oh.
Yes.
Koziel.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Armstead.
Yes.
Cosby Hurling.
Yes.
Sadowski.
Yes.
Sheehy.
Yes.
Yamikaitis.
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Kaczynski.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes. We're going to move on to the budget hearing. This is the date, time, and place set aside for the public hearing on the 2012 budget. I'm going to ask Mr. Armstead for comments on the 2012 budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am recommending that the final adoption of the 2012 municipal budget in the amount of $95,624,914.88. The original budget request was submitted at $99,596,221.49, which would have resulted in a 24-point tax increase. The Finance Committee worked extremely hard with the Council President and all members of the Council and the Mayor in coordination with all department heads to reduce any unnecessary expenditures. 2012 budget is $95,624,914 $624,914.88. With the utilization of various reserves and the maximization of revenues and additional surplus, along with the continuation of hiring freeze, the City of Linden has decreased a total of 101 positions since 2007, 86 full-time positions and 15 part-time positions. The budget is now representative of an 8 municipal point tax increase. This represents an annual cost of $75.84 per household, based on an average assessed home of $138,000 or an additional $632 a month. Furthermore, I would like all the citizens of Linden to know that the Finance Personnel Committee plans on starting the 2013 budget immediately. This committee is strongly committed to reducing spending wherever possible. The committee will continue a hiring freeze on all positions and demand that many department heads justify the need for any position they request be filled. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues on the Finance Committee, Council President, and Mayor for all their assistance during the budget process. In addition, I would like to commend the staff of the Treasurer's Office for their tireless efforts during this budgeting process.
Would you like to call on the Treasurer, Mrs. Zach?
Yes, Ms. Zach, if you would like, would you present the budget?
Good evening, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Mayor and Council for allowing me to present the 2012 municipal budget. I'd also just like to ask for your indulgence. I'm battling bronchitis, so there's some coughing that you may have to experience during my presentation, and I do apologize for that. For the 2012 municipal budget, the total is $95,624,914.88. What this represents is all expenditures for the year 2012. The state of New Jersey allows each municipality to break their categories of operating expenses into two segregated accounts. One is known as operating expenses for salary and wages, and the other is other expenses. The operating expenses for salary and wages for 2012 represent $42,297,865.11, which covers our 608 employees, 511 full-time and 97 part-time. Most of the part-time are school guards. The positions that we've eliminated since 2007 are 86 full-time and 15 part-time positions, for a total of over 101 positions have been eliminated since 2007 through the aggressiveness of our Reorganization and Consolidation Committee, the governing body, and the mayor. The other category of operating expenses is our other expense category, which represents all our debt service payments, our statutory expenses, the operating budgets for each of our municipal departments, for a total of $53,327,049.77. If you add those two categories up, the total is $95,624,914.88. This chart, we put together this spreadsheet just to give everyone an understanding as to what our basic mandated and uncontrolled budget busters are in our municipal budget. Starting with the salary and wages, which represent roughly 44% of our budget. In 2012 column, you'll see the numbers, and this is compared to the 2011 numbers, and this shows any type of increase or decrease. Our salary and wages have showed an increase in the year 2012, $747,006.60. For the years 2009 and 10, All city employees took a 0 increase. In 2010, in 2011, we actually had our blue-collar workers that took a third 0. And in 2012, each of the bargaining units are expected to maintain their raises for 2012. And in 2013, it's the final year of a 5-year contract. Therefore, negotiations will commence again for the year 2014. The police and fire pension number is $5,596,100. And as you can see, this number went down from last year's appropriation. Governor Christie in the legislature passed Chapter 78, which affected individuals' pensions, and the pension costs have gone down for the police and fire. If you look at the public employees' retirement number, that number slightly went up. It had gone up much more drastically, but it was for this legislation that the governor and the legislature put together that allowed that to be reduced. We have health insurance, workers' comp, general insurance costs, as you can see, was a large increase of $1.1 million, or roughly a total 17.47% of our total budget. Our state health benefits cost went up by over a 10% increase. And again, once the contracts are up at the end of next year in 2013, every municipal employee will be contributing towards their health benefits and a minimum of 1.5%, and on a scale of salaries, it'll be even a more substantial amount of contributions. The library state mandated number is a number that's dictated by the state that we can't budget below that $1.8 million. In 2011, March of 2011, the legislature passed a law that now states that we must explain to the taxpayers how much our public library costs us. So you will see on your tax bills that that's a segregated account. Our Social Security and unemployment is also part of our statutory expenditures. Gas and diesel, we have over 297 vehicles within the city of Linden for emergency services, public works, public property, and various equipment. This number does fluctuate from year to year depending on the amount of fuel that we're going to be expending. We've tried to eliminate any of the gas guzzlers over the last several budget years. We've moved to more fuel-efficient, economical type vehicles such as the Ford Focuses. And as you can see, utilities and postage in our fire service and street lighting is roughly over $2,882,000, or showed a $242,000 decrease. We've been looking at all of our utilities and working with various entities to try to join consumptions so that we can try to limit the amount that we're going to spend on our electric. We've joined forces, Greener by Design, our grants person, along with Birdsville, our consultants for engineering, have assisted us in that endeavor to try to reduce our energy costs and become much more efficient. We've been able to eliminate and decrease that line item as well. The debt service and deferred charges, as you can see, it's slightly gone up. We try to remain a level debt through our capital budget. We try to maintain a level debt. So as debt service needs to be retired, new debt service, we can then go for additional permanent funding. So our debt service is over $10,554,000. And as you can see, there's each category of other expenses in the various departments that they need in order to operate. Many of that is contractual. But I want to bring your attention to this arrow down here, basically where it says miscellaneous other department expenses. If you look at the various different mandates and really what's out of a lot of control of the various department heads, this $277,000 at the bottom of the screen basically is what we could kind of consider discretionary. But again, because we have 8 different labor union agreements, there's certain areas that we must reimburse the employees for when it comes to, say, tuition due to police or fire if they're going for certain degrees. So there's really not any specific area right now that we can say is discretionary, but if we had to go through every single uncontrolled expense, that would be the number that we would be looking at, is that possibly that $277,000. This chart as a pie just kind of gives you the general areas as to where your money is spent. The largest portion of the budget is our public safety department, which consists of our police, fire, dispatch, and OEM departments, which is $29,025,792.11, or roughly 30.35% of the entire budget. The second largest category is our insurance at $16,727,293, or roughly 17.49% of our total budget appropriations. The third largest category that we've recently had a lot of consolidation and reorganization under Councilman Koziel and his committee and this administration has been in the Department of Public Property and Community Services. This now had been separate. It had at one time been 5 separate individual departments. It's all been consolidated under one, and it now consists of the Division of Recreation, Parks, Transportation and Parking, Buildings and Grounds, Public Works, and Municipal Garage. That totals $13,282,800, or is roughly 13.89% of our total budget. The next largest category that I touched upon earlier was our debt service at $10,554,800. We have statutory expenses that I spoke earlier about. That total is $9,540,894.19, which represents the pensions and the Social Security and FICA. We have the category of general government, which is basically all other departments that aren't categorized separately on the pie chart, from the mayor's office to the city clerk's office to the engineering department to the finance department. We kind of lumped them all in just to show you what the total general government budgets would total, which is $8,415,126.32. We have something that's called reserve fund collected taxes, which we budget at $3,900,000, or roughly 4.8% of our budget. The municipality's job is to collect no municipality can collect 100%. We try to collect as much as we can, but we have to rely on something called the reserve fund collected taxes. As a municipality, we're the entity that collects all the taxes, and it's up to us to disperse them to the county, to the Board of Ed, and to the city. The county is dispersed quarterly, and the Board of Education is dispersed monthly. So it's our responsibility to make sure they get 100% of their appropriations for the amount to be raised. The reserve fund collected taxes is the difference that the municipality has to account for. We have utilities of $2,307,350, or roughly 2.41% of the budget, which once again, we have over 23 facilities in the city of Linden. And the last category is, as I mentioned earlier, is our library at $1,870,859.26, or roughly 1.96%. We couldn't budget below that library number. That's the minimum number that the state of New Jersey says we have to budget for our library. I spoke earlier about the appropriation side. This is the revenue side that is critical that I want to explain to everyone. If you look at 2002, which is 10 years ago, and the total amount of various revenue that we've collected, the huge number that sticks out is the state aid. The state aid represented 37.57% of all our revenue that we had collected 10 years ago. If you look at that same state aid number, we're only at 20.82% collection for our state aid out of all our general revenue, which means that it was a decrease of 16.75%. By having that decrease in our state aid, the governing body had to look for other areas or avenues to make up that difference in the revenue. One of the areas is in other revenues, that is local revenues, host community benefits. We have some industry in the city that we actually receive host community benefits for, and the governing body and the administration is looking to try to increase and have more reoccurring revenues to shift the burden from the homeowners. But as you can see, the amount to be raised by taxation was only 42% back in 2002. Now it's at 52.70%, because once again, we've lost ratables, and the fact is that it's more reliant now on the amount to be raised by taxation, and it's a direct result of not having that same amount of state aid. We have less state aid now than we did 10 years ago. The surplus anticipated we utilized in 2012 is roughly 8.73%. The surplus that we relied on in 2002 was roughly 7.43%. And again, as we speak about the local library tax, that 1.96%, that's new since 2011. That number was part of the amount to be raised by taxation back in 2002. And receipt for delinquent taxes basically has remained level. We rely about 1.57% of that revenue as our total revenue. And I know everyone wants to know exactly where their tax dollars go. What this chart shows is what this governing body has control over as the mayor and council is the municipal portion. And as you can see, the municipal portion is roughly 32.09% of every dollar for your tax dollars goes towards operating our municipal government. The amount is $50,398,096.64 to run our amount to be raised for the municipal purposes, along with the library, which is $1,870,859.26, or roughly 1.19% of every tax dollar. The county, which is controlled by the County Board of Chosen Freeholders, the number that Linden has to collect for taxes, the amount to be raised, is 15.80%, or roughly $24,888,000 $819,346.22. And the open space for the County of Union that the city has to collect in taxes is $878,564.11, or roughly 0.56%. And the largest component of our tax bill is our schools, which is headed by Dr. Rocco Tomatsik and the Linden Board of Education. And that's roughly 50.36% of every tax dollar goes towards operating our schools, or a total of $79,098,877.50. In order for our schools to operate, that's the amount of the levy that we have to collect. In 2012, it's necessary for us to send out estimated tax bills. What this basically explains is how we calculate what your estimated tax bills are. Right now, state aid has not been certified, and if we do not have state aid, we cannot send out actual tax bills. So what we do is we send out estimated tax bills. There's certain cash flows that we must meet. We cannot not pay debt service. We cannot not meet payroll. So we need a constant cash flow. If you look at the assessment of your home and you multiply that by the tax rate, that'll give you a total. If you subtract the previous first 2 quarters of the year, that'll give you your balance. For example, the average assessed value of a home is $138,000. If we multiply that by the estimated total tax rate of 5.707, that gives you your total taxes. You subtract what you had paid your first and second quarter, that gives you a balance. You take that balance and you divide it by 2, and that basically is what your estimated third quarter billing would be. And again, if there's any type of deductions for veterans and senior citizens, you would take that out. But I just kind of wanted to just go through this because I know we've had to do estimated bills in the past, and I was hoping that this might be able to help some individuals figure out how we calculate that. And I know everybody wants to know how this will personally affect them. In the municipal portion, and again, this is what the governing body has control over, the municipal portion of your tax increase this year will be roughly $78.53 for the year, $6.55 if you broke that down per month, and $1.64 per week. This is based on an average home of $138,000, and for 2012, a tax point is $275,216. What the mayor and council's approach is, and with the help of our LEDC Board of Trustees and the Economic Development Coordinator, is to try to limit, if any, to avoid any tax increase in future years. And the mayor and Economic Development Committee, along with the council, have various redevelopment projects that we were hoping that will start bringing in rateables, the much-needed rateables that we need to shift the burden away from the homeowners and back to the way it was in the 80s when we didn't really have much reliance on the amount to be raised by taxation. We had more revenues coming in than expenditures. The various projects, unfortunately, had been stymied in litigation, but we see that there's going to be a rejuvenance, hopefully in 2013 and 2014, of this various redevelopment projects. And I'm sure the mayor will get into that at a later time. But just to touch upon some of them that we're looking at, hopefully looking for redevelopment projects, would be the Tremley Point Connector Road, our Tremley Point Industries, our General Motors property, and the various projects throughout Wood Avenue, South Wood Avenue and St. George's Avenue. And the mayor and council's #1 priority is servicing the taxpayers of Linden. And we do that through various major departments that provide services. We have a professionally trained 24/7 police department headed by Chief Pavona and under the direction of Mayor Krabunka. We have over 208 full and part-time police officers and police personnel and dispatchers that do a phenomenal job for the city of Linden and keep the Linden residents safe. The police and central dispatch department's total budget, salary and wages and other expenses, total $15,662,750. We also have fire department fully paid 24/7 protection headed by Chief Joe Rizzo and under the direction of Councilman Adam Kaczynski, who's our chairman of Fire Committee. We have over 115 full and part-time fire personnel, and the total operating budget between the water standby charge that the city of Linden is obligated to pay, their other expense budget that they need to operate, and their salary and wages total $12,330,900. And the other large department that we have is our Department of Public Property and Community Services, which is headed by Mr. Al McDonald, the Director of Public Property, and Councilman Sheehy, who serves as Chairman of Public Property. This is one of the major departments, as I mentioned earlier, that's gone through a lot of reorganization and consolidation and basically lost about 30% of their manpower since 2007. But through Councilman Koziel's hard work as chairman of the reorganization committee and the various members of this council, we've been able to realign and try to eliminate positions wherever possible. We have various divisions of recreation, parks maintenance, public works, municipal garage, and public buildings and grounds that all equal together to make the Department of Public Property. The total of their salary and wages and other expenses is $13,282,800, and they have over 168 employees, 159 full-time and 9 part-time employees. Many of these departments provide vast services to the citizens of Linden. The Division of Public Works, which is headed by Superintendent Walter Fichiti, provides not only the items that are listed here, such as trees, sidewalks, sewer service, maintaining the waterways, but we are responsible for garbage collection up to 2 times a week. The annual cost to the taxpayers to alleviate that is $850,000. We have trash collection 4 times a year, and that's roughly $400,000. We have street sweeping. They're also responsible for snow plowing, graffiti removal. There's a vast multitude of services that they provide. We have in Linden, we have a brand new library, state-of-the-art facility, and if you haven't been able to make it there, please try to. It's something that is a showpiece of Linden. And Dennis Purvis is the director of our Linden Free Public Library, and as I mentioned earlier, the state mandated number that we can't budget below is that $1.8 million in order to operate our library. The second component of your 2012 budget is your capital budget. The capital budget is basically a plan where the various departments submit their requests to update either aging equipment or address the aging infrastructure of the municipality. In this, we look at the public safety departments of fire and police. Right now, you'll see tonight on the agenda, there's an ordinance for the appropriation of funds for computer equipment. There's a phase-in period that the Technology Committee under Councilman Koziel has been working on in order to update some antiquated equipment and phase it in over a 3-year period. In the police department and fire department, you'll see that ordinance that'll be up for adoption later on this evening. The non-public safety departments, one of the larger categories is our engineering department, which updates our aging infrastructure throughout the city through the various street resurfacings, reconstruction of our bridges, our storm and sewer improvements, and the citywide curb and sidewalk reconstruction. The total of engineering is approximately $1.5 million. In public works, there's various equipment that needed to be upgraded. There had been many years that the capital budget hadn't had proper equipment appropriated, and this year the Finance Committee wanted to make sure that they get the equipment that they need. One of the items being sanitation truck, the other being street sweeper, which are large ticket items for the Public Works Department. The other area for non-public safety departments is under the computers citywide other than police and fire. There hasn't been a technology upgrade in nearly 10 years in dealing with the actual workstations and the programs, and a lot of it has been antiquated. We want to move into the 21st century, become more economically efficient, and have the proper equipment to work that. The IT committee, once again, has recommended that we look and try to phase this in over a 3-year period to have that equipment upgraded and allow the employees to have upgraded equipment. And the last item is the public property. There's certain trucks that actually are costing the city much more by repairing them and trying to constantly repair them and keep them operational. They will now be taken out of the fleet and they'll be replaced with more economic vehicles. And I would like to just end each presentation with our tax collection rate. As you can see, there's always ups and downs when you're talking about the tax collection rate. Depending on the economic times that you're facing, the tax collection rate can go down. What this mayor and governing body is trying to do is to have an upswing, not only in the tax collection rate, but also in the redevelopment that you're going to see throughout the city of Linden. They all work extremely hard to try to bring ratables into the city, and that's really what we're trying to focus on, is to bring in additional revenue and ratables in order to assist in future budgets so that we don't have to come and say that there's going to be any type of municipal increase. That's the goal of everybody, I believe, on this council, including the mayor. So I would just like to thank you all for your time and efforts in listening to my presentation. I'd like to take this time to thank my staff, Christine Figueredo and Nancy Gomez, for their help in this PowerPoint presentation, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have in reference to the 2012 budget. Thank you.
Gonna get me in trouble.
Thank you, Ms. Sack, for that presentation. Everybody had an opportunity to sign the blue sheets for public comments. Please come up. I'd like to call up Pat Hero. Thank you. We have moved the podium because some of the council people to the right said it's hard to hear sometimes.
Okay, I'll try to make myself heard. Pat Hero, Wheat Chief Road. First, I'd be most remiss if I did not thank Alexis and her staff for the great job they did with this PowerPoint presentation. Personally, it's the highlight of one of my council meeting years when I get this budget presentation. Unfortunately, it's not the highlight of my year when I get my tax bill. I have a number of questions. It would be nice if someday I could get a line item budget. I mean, this budget is nice, but a line item budget would be really, really most helpful. But not having one, I have about 13 questions here. Sorry, folks, but went over the budget and have about 13 questions. First question is on sheet 10A. Where does the revenue for the Morris Pilot Program come from, and what is the Morris Pilot Program?
On sheet 10A, the Morris pilot payment is $276,300. This was something that had been negotiated through the council several years ago in reference to the property that was purchased near and on the airport, what was known as the airport facility. And this is a payment that the city of Linden will receive annually. And we started making payments. They started making payments last year when the warehouse was built.
Okay, so this is a warehouse owned by the Morris Group?
Yes.
Okay. Jack Morris?
I'm not sure of his first name.
Okay. Okay, second one is for sheet 11. If we're depleting the surplus, why is there more surplus anticipated in 2012 than 2011?
The Finance Committee had looked at the various areas in the budget, and one area was in the surplus. We've tried to come up with a delicate balance between our revenues and the use of surplus and the utilization of reserves. What we've tried to do is utilize what we feel that we can replenish through the budgeting process for next year. The Finance Committee felt comfortable with the $8,350,000. We had roughly $9 million in surplus at the end of 2011.
Okay, thank you for that. Also for, I guess, let me see, it's kind of hard doing this. For sheet 11, I guess the state, this may be a state thing, I want to know why the minimum local tax for municipal library has gone down. Is that a state thing?
Yes, ma'am, that's it. Again, the state dictates to us what the minimum number that we must budget for, and that's the calculation for 2012.
Okay. Sheet 12, for the election, what are the other expenses for the election, and why are they so high?
The other expenses are
$25,000.
I believe they're for printing. The largest portion of that is for the printing. Mr. Bodek could probably get into more depth if you wanted a more detailed description.
State statute requires the municipalities to pay for the cost of the primary elections, which includes the printing and mailing of the ballots. That's where most of that cost is.
Wow, that's still pretty high. Okay. Sheet 14, Why have the municipal court other expenses gone up from $101,400 in 2011 to $129,450 in 2012? That's an increase of $28,050.
The municipal court has been having additional sessions, and the additional sessions that they've been having have had to have additional expenses associated with it. So their other expense budget has gone up.
Okay. Why are the salary and wages and engineering service costs $365,900 for 2011 and $449,200 for 2012? That's an increase of $83,300. That's on sheet 14.
In the engineering department, we have everyone received the raise for 2012. In addition, last year we didn't have a summer help seasonal program. This year the governing body has decided to allow that program to come back. So that's an additional $75,000 that hadn't been budgeted last year that is in this year's budget.
I saw their salaries. It doesn't seem to be that high, but if that's what you say. It seems an awful lot of money, though. $75,000. They're not making that much money.
That's the increase.
Okay.
$75,000.
Why is the health for sheet 15A? Why is the health benefit waiver $14,000 for 2011 but $20,000 for 2012?
There was an individual that had been prorated from the previous year in 2011. That individual does not have to be prorated in 2012. So that's an actual number.
Okay. Why have the other expenses for the fire department increased from $125,300 in 2011 to $178,900 for 2012? It's an increase of $53,600. That's on sheet 15B.
One of the areas in the fire department's budget that had increased in the other expense category was equipment repairs and maintenance. Last year's budget, the subline item was $23,000. This year it's $30,000. The fire chief will definitely be able to answer in better detail. Just quickly, I'll just touch upon the uniform supplies. That number had been increased in 2012 to $30,000. In 2011, it was $5,600. And the EMS that we budget as a sub-account in 2011 was $22,100, and this year it's $25,000. Those are three of the main sub-account areas that had increased in the fire department. If you'd like Chief Rizzo to explain further, I can ask Chief Rizzo to please comment.
Chief, would you
Sure.
respond to that?
The other area that increased was the
Training.
budget,
That's right.
which is a contractual fund that we have to pay out for college credits. So we have a lot more younger firefighters that are going to school, taking advantage of the college credits.
Okay, I appreciate that. Is there anything else? Didn't want to cut you off. Okay. What are the other expenses involved with red light cameras? It was $660,000 in 2011 and $684,000 in 2012.
We have 12 intersections at $47.50 per camera, so the invoice annually is going to be $57,000. And that's the annual amount for 2012.
Okay. Why have the other expenses for the municipal garage risen from $1,005,400 for 2011 to $1,023,300 for 2012? That's a change of $17,900.
One of the largest areas in municipal garage is one of the sub-accounts is the gas and diesel fuel. Last year we budgeted for 2011 $530,000. We ended up spending last year $637,000 on fuel. Therefore, this year when we looked at the budget, the Finance Committee wanted to be more conservative in the budgeting, so we budgeted $650,000, closer to what was actually spent. And last year we had to do transfers in November because of the fuel prices fluctuate.
Right, because that was my next question. It said it was expended for 2011, $1,119,540, so that does make sense. What are the other expenses involved with the construction official that will cost $277,800 for 2012? That's on sheet 16.
on sheet 16, when you talk about the Uniform Construction Code, what we budget in there, they have a, through the budget, it's a dedication by rider. So every revenue that we collect for the construction code, that revenue has to pay for their expenses. So when we talk about the construction code department, not only their salary and wages, we look at health benefits. So the individuals that work in the construction code department, we budget their health insurance, health benefits out of their line item. We budget the pension and FICA costs out of their line item. So that would consist of the $277,800. Pension and FICA is $120,000, and the health benefits is $130,000. Their other expenses are very minimal: $500 for computers, $1,000 for meetings, $1,600 for membership dues, office supplies, other contractual services.
Okay. Only two more questions, folks. I'm not going to be here all night. Why is there an item for the school board elections for 2012 when they will be held in November? So it's not a separate election this year.
Mr. Bodick?
That was that budget was put together before the state law changed.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, and then my last is sheet 31. What is the deficit general budget, and why isn't this the same as the total? This is under the landfill. What's the deficit general budget, and why is it the same as the total landfill utility revenues? This is under the dedicated landfill utility budget. That's sheet 31.
Yes, the landfill budget is a separate utility budget. For many years, we had many reserve funds that we were able to utilize to fund the operations of the landfill. Several years ago, possibly 3, maybe 4 years ago, we had to start raising that through the current fund budget as a deficit in order to fund the landfill. So basically, we raise that budget in the current fund budget, and then that money is then transferred over to the landfill in order for it to operate. There's salary and wages. If you look on sheet 32, it kind of explains the categories that it's broken down into. Sheet 31 is the revenue. So the revenue is coming for our current fund budget of the deficit being brought into the landfill. And then on sheet 32, those are the various expenses. The salary and wages is $170,700. The other expenses is $222,200. And then we have capital debt service that we have to pay for an additional $230,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Mr. Paul Sharpie to come up.
Paul Sabe, I reside at 315 2nd Avenue here in Linden. First of all, you please tell the taxpayers who are paying for these employees' health insurance. Since it's the biggest thing up there, like $1 million.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sharpie, I didn't hear you.
The health insurance, who's paying for that now? I know there's some employees here.
Oh, there's several department heads and one unclassified individual. There's about 13 individuals that contribute towards their health benefits, certain council members and certain part-time employees.
Well, how about
and
the other employees?
The other employees that are covered under existing bargaining units will not contribute until the end of this contract, which is 2013. In the year 2014, everyone will be contributing towards health benefits. The negotiations committee has met numerous times with the various unions to talk about negotiations, and we have requested various concessions. Right now, there is 8 bargaining units, and no one has opted to open up the contract.
Could the city open the contract up? I would like to know.
I'll refer to Mr. Roth. He is our labor relations specialist. He can answer your question.
Mr. Roth, please.
What was the question? It was muffled.
Could this labor agreement be open? Does it have to go to court?
We can't unilaterally open a contract. What
Why?
has to happen
It has to go into court. Am I true on that?
has to go to court.
Yeah, to open it up.
No.
We have some voluntary employees paying their medical, 1.5, which is required by the state law. Did the governor sign?
It's going
Okay.
up July 1.
Yeah. It went, right. Now, come July 1, it goes up to 2. Am I
No,
correct on that?
It goes according to
It goes up on a
chart.
scale like that, I
It goes
know.
up through a chart.
Right. You know, taxpayers, you know, you're really getting hurt here. You're paying for these employees' health insurance. This is our tax dollars.
And Mr. Roth,
And also, I requested city council members open up about closing this building down on Fridays during the summer, which would have saved the city closing down those Fridays and moving the schedule up for these employees, and they refused to open up with furloughs. So this is what we have to put up with, and this is why our taxes are up to $75 instead of being only up to $50. There was a savings, and I looked at it. And that's why I told you I was in city council in a different state, and I know how to budget. And it's a shame that the taxpayers have to go through it, what kind of city government and how it's being run here. And that's what I have to say on this budget. It's a disgrace to have to live in a town like this and see how the taxpayers are being cheated. It's really a shame.
thank you, Mr. Sharpie. I'd like to call up Jacqueline Williams, please.
Good evening, everyone. Let me just say that every year we seem to play the numbers game, and every year I wonder if someone or some group of people are trying to play on the intelligence not only of myself but of the taxpayers as well. And every year we seem to find a way to try and point the finger at the Board of Education in their budget as the reason why most of our taxes are going up. And if I remember correctly, a couple months back, Councilman Brown had pointed out how the Board of Education over the last 3 years have significantly decreased the amount of taxes that they've charged the taxpayer, well, the cost to the taxpayer, while the city in their budgets have basically increased at a rate of, I believe, 8%, and you can correct me later if I'm wrong. While watching this presentation, I couldn't help but notice that when we talked about the state aid, we had to go 10 years back and compare it to the 2012. And I'm wondering why that is and why the taxpayers couldn't get a comparison of last year's state aid compared to this year. Also, the $78 increase, in my opinion, it's not really 78, and if many of you have already received your sewer bills like I have, it's going to end up being close to $300 increase. And I also have a question about that, and I know I spoke to you, Mr. Council President Moore, and you explained how the situation came about with Merck, and it caused the sewer bills to go up. But I just wanted to say to everyone here that I have owned my house in Linden for about 7 years now. And over a period of 6 of those 7 years, it took that long just to get a cumulative increase of about $200. And I can't help but to wonder how from last year to this year, that is also going up $200 in 1 year. Something just doesn't add up to me, and I think some numbers were played with. And after watching C-SPAN, which I encourage many of you to do, you'll also hear some other things that are going on, not just in the federal government, but the state government as well. And it has also come out that apparently some municipalities have found creative ways to tax us. And one way for some municipalities is to tax you and increase the money that the municipality wants to use through your garbage. And in this case, I have a tendency to believe that it's coming to us by way of our sewer bill. And I don't really think that's fair. I also have a question about the public properties and community services budget. We have over $13 million for that. I guess I would like to know why, we have such a large budget for that, especially when most of the community services that are offered to us, we have to pay for our children to participate in that. And once again, when I first moved here, in order to attend camp, I only had to pay about $125 for my children to attend camp. Now I can't even pay for my children to go to camp through the city because they want $300 or $50, $350 if I'm not mistaken per child. So in my eyes, that's another increase. And I just can't seem to wrap my mind around it. Also, when the budget presentation was made, I couldn't help but notice how our treasurer breezed past the increases that some of our departments are going to be receiving due to the raises in their contracts. And I would like to have it restated for the record what each of those departments' raises are going to be, what was in that negotiated contract, because if I'm not mistaken, some of those departments are going to be getting a 5% increase, and supposedly that's because, and that's over a period of 3 to 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. And that's because prior to that, the justification for that was that they took zeros in the previous years when they negotiated the contracts. So they certainly made up for that, and especially during the time where we are, in my opinion, still in a recession. Thirdly, believe it or not, I'm still a little nervous. I just can't help but ask the question about the $120,000 increase for the gas and diesel. I think those numbers can probably be adjusted, especially now that the gas prices are coming down. And being that I really haven't written down too many notes, I do want to say that this is part of the problem when we negotiate contracts 3 and 5 years out. And many of us who serve in government or have served in government were able to forecast some of these things that were going to happen. It's not like we didn't know that the government was going to change the law to mandate it to where government workers would have to pay 1.5% of their contract, towards their towards their health benefits. Now, we know that these changes are coming, and we know that it's already a strain on the people, the taxpayers, to foot the insurance bills for them and pay their their benefits for them. Why would we negotiate contracts 3 and 5 years out to where they wouldn't have to contribute to their own benefits? That didn't make any sense to me, unless you were trying to protect some folks and keep them from having to pay that out-of-pocket expense. And I think it's very unfair, for you to ask the taxpayers to do something like that, to foot that type of bill, and you won't even ask the people who are actually getting the paychecks to provide us services to pay for that out of their pocket. It's just, to me, it ends up boiling down to greed. And I think the number that you projected for the increase in uncollected taxes is actually going to go up. You're going to find yourselves with even more foreclosures than what you already have, because the people are taxed to death. You just can't afford anymore. And I really don't see a good, concise effort of the council to really do anything about it, especially when you're not trying to consider furloughs. And I don't think it's unreasonable for Mr. Sharpie to request we close down on a Friday, especially during the summer. There's nothing wrong with having a 4-day week.
Thank you. We do have a member of the Linden Sewage Authority, Linden Roselle Sewage Authority. Mr. Sheehy, could you tell us about the authority? You're independent and autonomous in the city?
We did lose the Merck, the water that was coming from Merck. We lost a lot of revenue there.
But is the sewage authority under the control of the city?
Is the sewage authority under control of the city? I understand the only thing the city does with the sewage authority is collect the bills.
So you have the city of Linden has no input into the sewage authority's budget?
No, sir.
So they're independent and autonomous from us?
I would say so. You know, I'm there to oversee what's going on. You know, I am the liaison to the sewage authority.
Thank you. Also, Mr. McDonald, there's a question that came up as far as the camp prices, why they've, can you address that?
We have kept the camp prices down for many, many years, as low as they could possibly be. It's really unfair for it to be a tax burden for people, for certain people who are just utilizing a particular program. They're going to have to foot the bill for it. We keep it at a minimum level, just what is needed to operate the camp and nothing more. The city doesn't make any money off of it, but unfortunately, we can't expect the rest of the taxpayers to foot the bill if you choose to have your child in camp. It's still a very reasonable fee, and we're the lowest around by far. It's $350 for an 8-week program during the summer, and that's from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, so.
And in the past, what was the cost?
Well, it has gone up consistently over the past 10 years. 15 years ago, it was $50, but we could no longer afford to continue to offer that service for that kind of money.
Thank you, sir.
Council President?
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, just real quick. I was going to wait till my remarks on the budget, but Ms. Williams brings up a point that I tried to bring up last month as far as that number when we talk about the increase and how the numbers are being played. Basically what happens, we all know that your property taxes is based off your assessed value versus the tax rate itself. So what happened is last year the average home was assessed about $139,000. This year is assessed at about $138,000. So if you're in that category where your assessed value went down from $139,000 to $138,000, your taxes are increasing by $78. However, if your home is assessed at $115,000, for example, I mean $115,000, your taxes are going to be going up by $92. If your home is assessed at $130,000, your taxes are going to go up on the municipal level by $104. So I tell people the best way to know how much your taxes are going to increase is to take the tax rate from last year minus it what we're saying this year and get the percentage of the increase. That works out to be about 4.3 or 4.4% of an increase if your assessed value has stayed the same. So that's why you see your tax bill actually is going up more than the $78.
Mr. Roth, also we had a question from the speaker in reference to a 5-year contract that was given out. Any input for that?
Council President,
Yes.
may I touch upon that till Mr.
Yes,
Roth
please.
comes back? The negotiations committee started negotiations in 2008. This contract is from 2009 to 2013. At the time the negotiations committee was working on it, Governor Christie was not in office, nor was there any type of 2% cap being spoken about. However, what the committee did do was negotiate 2 zeros, which was unheard of for police and fire at the time, when binding arbitration was still in effect, to get 2 negotiated zeros for police and fire, along with all the other unions that were in throughout the city of Linden. And then in 2010, the blue collars took another 3rd zero. So in this year's budget for 2012, the raises for police and fire were 3.5%, and for everyone else it was 3.95%. That was negotiated. And again, we started negotiations in 2008 for the various contracts. Mr. Roth could definitely speak in much more detail as to the negotiations process.
A question that came up, Mr. Roth, why a 5-year contract with the financial economy nosediving at the time?
The reason we agreed to a 5-year deal was because the first 2 years were zero. And there are negotiators in this room, so I don't want to talk too much about it, the negotiations, but we got, and the unions acquiesced because they were working with us. And I honestly believe they were working with us. I wish we got a little bit more for the health benefits, but that's, we all have our wishes. The unions worked with us and gave us 2 zeros. The 2 zeros compounded year after year. They'll, and the unions, the union guys know this. The union employees know this. That 2 zeros compounded over a lifetime comes out to a lot of money out of pocket. If I remember correctly, I think it was over a 15-year career. It was something like out of pocket was $125,000 out of pocket for those 2 zeros, which is a lot of money. 1 zero was obviously half, but when you compound 2 zeros, it was economically worth it to get those 2 zeros and then negotiate with what the going rate was at that time. And overall, you know, we looked at it saying that nobody was getting 2 zeros. Even with the 2% cap, arbitrators and police and fire are still giving 1 0 and 2%. Some of the recent decisions are coming back a little bit higher, but with additional concessions given to the union or required by the union. 2 zeros was unprecedented. I don't know anyone who got 2 zeros for police and fire, and we thank the guys for doing that with us. And the DPW blue collars gave us a 3rd zero. 3 zeros is, you know, that's as good as we're going to get. So that's why we traded that for a 5-year deal.
Mr. Roth, you had said that you wish we would have gotten a little bit more for the health care.
Yes.
What did we get? What are they paying?
The concessions that we received were new employees would start contributing towards their health benefits. It's a little bit less than came out to be a little bit less than the 1.5, which was at that time only being discussed. It wasn't obligated at that time.
And one more question on the contract was, is there any way that you've been in touch with the unions to try to renegotiate to sort of cut some of the cost?
I have spoken briefly with some of the union presidents, but I have spoken to the union negotiators, the 2 attorneys and the business agent. 2 business agents never even bothered calling me back. The 2 union attorneys who I spoke to said that they would be unwilling to open up the contract because once they open up the contract, it's their opinion that they would have to automatically start paying the required percentages under Chapter 78, the contributions towards your health benefits.
And the final question, maybe Mr. McDonald can help us with, is the fact that the price for fuel has decreased. Can that be lowered in the budget? Or you need to have an average? Because it does fluctuate.
Well, first off, we had to calculate the budget when we prepared the budget, so that's number one. Number two, if you look at the overall cost for the operating expenses at the municipal garage, it has decreased this year from last year, and that's even with an almost $100,000 increase in fuel cost. Now, obviously, it's a line item, so we won't utilize the money if we don't have to at the end of the year, but overall, the budget has decreased from last year in the municipal garage, as well as public works and public property.
Thank you very much. Virginia Malik.
Because of the time, I'll just ask 2 simple questions. The first one, if someone can just explain open space. What exactly is that? It was, for roughly 0.9 million.
The open space is something we had to start contributing about 10 years ago for the county. It's the county open space program that they utilize throughout the 21 municipalities. And it's a mandated obligation that we have to contribute towards.
We say open space, but what is this open space program?
Open space for preserving the various parks. For instance,
Okay.
across the street, the promenade, that was part of that
gotcha.
open space.
Right, okay. The next one, for this budget, when you were working it up, what is the average interest rate that we're paying on our debt? And then also, can you tell me like the high and low of the interest rates that we're paying on our various debt?
It does fluctuate. We actually have our financial advisors that look at that each time to see if we can go and refund some additional older debt. It fluctuates from anywhere when we do NJEIT infrastructures for very low
What are the
minimal
numbers?
interest rate. I can get you that. I don't have it off the top of
Right.
my head.
'Cause what I would
can
want
get
is
you
like
the
a-
exact dollar amount for each of the various categories that our debt service spans. It can span from 0.5% to 4%. I don't have that right in front of me.
Right, if I can get the average and then also what it spans.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move in to comments from the governing body. Start with Ward number 1, please.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to reiterate what I said last month. I'm not in support of this budget. I have a couple of reasons why. I'll explain to you. The $1.6 million surplus that we're rating to supplement this budget is troubling because right off the bat, if it's passed, we're $1.6 million in debt. Second one, we should explore more shared services and more efficient ways how to run things in this city. And third is the red light cameras. We anticipate, I believe, $2 million in revenue. I'm all for red light cameras because I believe it provides safety to the citizens of Linden, but how could we anticipate $2 million if people catch on, if they will get fined if they break the law? I would hope that fines will go down and less people go through red lights and tickets will be less on hand. So that's why I am not supporting this budget. I do want to thank the Personnel Finance Committee and the Treasury Department for all their hard work, but I am not in favor of this budget.
Thank you. Mr. Cozio?
Thank you, Council President. I, like Councilman Colivas, will not be supporting the budget, and the reasons being, I was tough on this budget. I mean, our treasurer was very kind at mentioning me a few times, involved in some committees, and I tried to be as involved as I possibly could. We scrubbed the budget. We tried to work through consolidation. I have been a proponent of the past 3 years of a zero-based budget. Just recently, I received some correspondence stating that we do a zero-based budget. If we did a zero-based budget, we would be presented with a zero increase budget. Okay, and then we would look at department by department and selectively give them back what they needed to make sure that our residents got the services they need. What we wouldn't put back were things that we considered expendable. All right, we do a carryover budget. We work on last year's budget, we push and pull, and we adjust to create the budget. If a true zero-based budget was used this year, we would have been presented with a zero-based budget. And we had a few meetings weeks and months back where the department heads and understandably said we can't cut anymore. The chairman of the committee, of the finance committee, said at least 2 or 3 different times, this is it, we can't go any lower. However, we did go lower. I'm tough on this. I want to see additional cuts. There are some places that we can cut, namely taking a look at the tables of organization and making sure that everybody is doing their job properly. And I'm not saying they're not, but taking a look at places where we can still consolidate, cross-utilize personnel. I'm not happy. Last month, I expected some more movement. If it was $1, I would have been a little satisfied, but there was no movement in the budget whatsoever from last month's presented budget to this month. Nothing. Nothing. I can't believe that in 1 month we couldn't come up with at least a couple of $1,000s to say, you know what, we did what we could, here's a little bit more, but nothing happened. I don't have faith in it, so I will not be supporting this budget.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Thank you. First, I want to thank the treasurer and her staff. I mean, they've helped me out a lot when I had questions, and I know they worked hard on that. However, with that being said, I'm not supporting this budget either for 3 or 4 main reasons. First, the first reason is that the increase of $78 is going to be more for a lot of people. I just don't feel comfortable. We're going out to the public saying your rate's going to increase by $78 while the majority of us is going to increase more. The second is that and I'm surprised no one mentioned, if you have your budget on page 3B2, this is something that's new with the state. And basically on this page, this lists areas where we feel we're going to have some trouble and some revenue. I mentioned this last month, and basically it's listed as revenues at risk. There's 8 categories that we have that total around about close to $4.3 million, where we're saying that maybe we can't rely on these revenues for next year. One of them, as Councilman Colbus mentioned, is the red light cameras, which is $2.5 million. The red light cameras is a problem right now throughout the state, where it's a pilot program and this money's not guaranteed. If the Senate doesn't approve it, guess what? The money that we're anticipating in future budgets is gone at 2.5. Another one that you show on here is something Pure Gen. We, not to bring up bad memories, but long story short is that we anticipated last year about $400,000. We anticipated another $400,000 this year. We're not getting those funds. That was a failed project. And another issue, just like last year, I don't like taking money out of our reserves. In this budget, we're taking $1.3 million out of our reserve for the airport lease. And again, this is revenue we can't count on next year, so we're going to be short already $4.3 million. Which brings me into what I've been asking the Personnel Finance Committee is that if we're going to pass a budget, we need to change what we do, and we need a plan. I wanted, and I kept asking for a projection for next year and a year after, at least a 3-year plan as far as projection of revenue and expenditures, so we can either plan better. To go year by year of a budget and we're in the same position is not working, and in my opinion, it's a broke system. So until I get projections for next year, until we budget properly and better, and until we address some of these issues, I can't support this budget.
Thank you. Mr. Armstead?
Yes, Mr. President. Well, I think it's a pretty good budget. I think we did all we could to try to keep taxes from being raised. And I think we try to have a minimum impact on the services that we provide to the citizens. Mr. Cozio has indicated that he's not supporting it for the zero-based budgeting reasons, and I would strongly recommend Council President, as he prepares committees, to rapidly prepare a zero-based budget committee, or if at all possible, put Mr. Cozio in charge of his zero-based budgeting concept and let him address every department that there is. He can begin with the police and fire department and let him sit down with those departments to see if, in fact, this zero-based budgeting policy or strategy that he talks of would work. The challenge is there. If you can do it, I'll be more than glad to go along with anything you attempt, Mr. Cozio. The other thing I would like to mention is that, anyone who is not in favor of this budget, I just want to hear some solutions. I don't want to hear that you're not in favor of it. I want to hear, hey, we can cut $10,000 at this particular location. Spell it out. We can't talk in, we can't be generic when we start talking about cutting the budget. We need to be specific. At this point in the budget process, if you are not happy with this budget, then let's be specific so that we can get this thing done. Here we are, we're in June already. So my challenge to anyone who doesn't support this budget is to give me specifics. Let me know where we can cut, how we can cut, and I will be more than glad to further reduce this budget. But I'm counting on you guys and you ladies to give me the specifics. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, have you given the council opportunities to meet with you and have special sessions for input?
Absolutely.
Councilwoman Mashana Cosby-Hurley.
Thank you. I'm going to support the budget this year because it is such a late date. And to Councilman Armstead's point, for the committee selection, I challenged our council president several months ago when we were still stalled on the budget to change the finance committee. We've had the same committee for the last 2 years, and we've had late budgets for those 2 years. It's not unreasonable to suggest a zero-based budget and be creative, and there were quite a few ideas that were presented, and last month with Councilman Brown's recommendations, there were reductions made. I know that my colleagues were looking for, as Councilman Cozio said, just a little bit more at this late hour. Unfortunately, we can't afford to wait any longer, and we need to start working for next year's budget, but we really need to take a hard look at the members on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and that advice is well taken, and we'll absolutely see some changes. Councilman Sadowski.
Thank you, Council President. Last month we were here, I voted for the budget. I really think it could be better. And to be perfectly frank, with the infighting up here, this is the same thing we were last year. We got pushed all the way and we were going to start the next month and it never happened. It never happened. I think the budget could be lower. The taking the money out of the reserves, I don't think is a good thing. And basically, the council has to work together. But this is the same scenario we had last year. The same thing. And what has to happen is, you have to have everyone involved in this finance, not just a select few and other people because they argue aren't listened to. Or you got to start right away. You know, we said this last year, and you know what? Never happened. It never happened. So I am hoping, just like Ms. Hurley there, that we can learn by our mistakes. I am voting yes, but as soon as it's passed, the whole council has to get together. Not just a certain few, the whole council, and direct it for next year. I really don't like the budget, but I vote yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Sheehy?
I'm actually on the committee. The zero-based budget is pretty hard when you just the salary and benefits is 43 million, and just the insurance offhand top of my head I think is 17 million. So we're already starting at $60 million. So if you add in everything that we have to pay, you know, we're up to, you know, in the $80 million bracket. So, you know, there's not a lot of fat to cut. We went over this, we had meeting after meeting after meeting. I mean, everybody wants to give yourself a little leeway, say on the electric bill, for numbers. Say we paid $400,000 last year in electric. Well, you want to at least put $4.25 in this year because you got to make sure everybody gets paid. Well, we couldn't even do that this year. We're paying right to the dime. Like the fuel cost was brought up. When we went over the fuel cost, it was at the highest it's ever been, you know, in the world, you know, at that time when we were doing fuel costs. So now fuel costs have come down. But if you don't have the money in the budget, people don't get paid. You know, the bills don't get paid. There's nobody up here that wants to raise taxes. Nobody up here wants to raise taxes. But it's through salaries, pension, and benefits. Just look at that number. And we're going to start at zero. You could start at zero, but you better add in $80 million to start at $80 million and then work from there, you know, in my eyes. And I agree with the statements that were given. Everybody's, you know, voting no against the budget. Well, just tell me or show me where to save money. That's all. Show me. Tell me. You know, they want to shut off half of the street lights in Linden. Fine. You know, that's what's going to save us money. You know, we're going to raise the fees on, you know, the basketball. You know, that ain't saving us money. That ain't making us money. You know, show me where the real savings are at, and believe you me, I'll do it. But you know, Mr. Sadowski said it's all the fighting that goes on up here. You know, it's ridiculous. It's a power struggle, I guess, but I'm up here to do what's right. So if somebody on this council can show me where to cut this budget, I'll be the first one to do it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Yamakaitis?
I didn't even vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I mentioned last month, I see many business owners here, homeowners. We wouldn't run our homes or our businesses like this. We're going to be coming out next year, $1.6 million in debt. We're tapping into our reserves. Would we run our homes or our businesses like this? No. We have to look at the way we're doing business. There's no ratables coming in. As you saw in Alexis's budget presentation, we can't keep going on like this. I had a community meeting last week. I spoke to my residents about this budget. They can't afford any more increases. The number of foreclosures in the neighborhood, it's outrageous. And one issue that they also brought up, and it's in this budget, the red light cameras. You're not balancing a budget on red light cameras, and that's how they are seeing it. They challenge this council, put a timer on those red light cameras so they could see. We were told that rear-end collisions are up in the area. We have right on South Park Avenue, the red light camera. So many of the residents are being ticketed because they're afraid to go. There have been rear-end collisions. People are out of work because they've been rear-ended. I mean, we can't solve our budget problems with red light cameras, and obviously you're seeing it here in this budget. Okay, we need to find other sources of revenue. We need to maybe go out, find some other way of bringing revenue in. Other towns are doing it. I mean, this has been challenged, as Mr. Sadowski had mentioned. Well, we're getting this lip service. We were given this budget approximately 30 days ago. Many of you recall, last year we were asking for the budget committee. That was disbanded. Why? You need to ask why. We need to have this budget committee put back in place. I'm not supporting this budget because we can't keep going doing business like this, and we have to say, no, enough is enough already. We need to go back and find other ways. So I will not be supporting this budget this evening.
Thank you. Councilman Frazier?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I've heard quite a bit here, those who support and those who are not supporting the budget. I have to agree with what Mr. Armstead said. It's nice to talk around the budget, but be specific. Give us something that is specific, something, again, as Mr. Sheehy said, we can put our hands on and actually reduce the budget with. Now, it's nice to sit on the outside and criticize it, but if you really got something to do, come forward and whatnot. Now, several of the members have been invited numerous times. I happen to be on the Personnel and Finance Committee to come and meet with us. I could only recall of one coming there to meet with us, and that was Mrs. Yamakaitis, who listened, and at that particular time, I don't recall her giving any specifics, but understanding exactly where we were, what certain of the items were. And at this particular time, as I said before, it's nice to sit on the outside and critique it and so forth, but if you really want to add to it, come forward and give us some specific examples. We've done our best. Our chairman has worked very diligently at it, and I can say this, we've had meetings at least 1, 2, sometimes 3 times per week on this budget. We're at the point right now where I think we're down to the bone. The only other thing now is to get into have layoffs, furloughs, and reduce services. Okay? That's where it's all about. To get together with the unions, you can't do that right now. They're contracts, and those contracts expire in 2013 in December. All right? And quite frankly, they're smart enough to know if they open up the contract that they'll be responsible to start paying on health benefits. Hopefully, we could work with them. We want to, but at this particular, I see Mr. Shappy raising his hands. Mr. Shappy, we have an attorney over here. We have several people out there who know what the contracts are. I've sat down with the negotiating committee, and I know exactly what it is. So at this particular point, we're pretty much at the end. The only other thing is take the drastic steps. I would not like to do that. I know that instituting a tax increase is not the most favorable thing, and a lot of people are obviously against it and so forth. And it will hurt people, including many of us up here. But in any event, at this particular point, unless I hear something that's really specific, I'm going to vote for this budget. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Councilman Kozinski.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. This budget, and while I don't doubt the intentions, hard work, and dedication of the individuals who worked on it, it's something that I can't support right now because of the effect it will have on the usual higher assessed houses in the 10th Ward. Talking to my neighbors, both solicited and unsolicited, it was brought to my attention time and time again that for the amount of services perceived in the 10th Ward is something that they're not ready to pay an increased tax for. And so I pledge to keep on fighting for the allocation that I feel we deserve and they deserve. But at this time, I won't be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Mayor, you have some comments?
I think, Council President, maybe you should make a comment first, or you would like me to?
I will support this budget.
For people that don't know, as the mayor of this city, under our 1897 charter, the mayor has no vote on the budget, nor can he veto the budget, even though the mayor has the authority to veto other ordinances. I was given the courtesy by the Personnel and Finance Committee to sit in on the budget negotiations. And I saw how hard they worked trying to cull down the costs as much as possible. And they solicited my input also. And it's easy to vote no for a budget, yet give no concrete proposals how to reduce that budget further. And all the members on the governing body participated at various sessions with budget discussions. And there was very little concrete proposals on reducing the budget other than using surplus. And when you use surplus, you're getting into dangerous territory, because any use of that surplus is a one-time fix, and it may reduce the budget in 2012, but then you have to make up that one-time fix in 2013 plus any further increases. Now, this 2012 budget come in $462,000 less than the 2111 budget. And now you consider that that's what a 4% raise roughly for all the employees in the city of Linden. And that 4% raise comes out to about $750,000. Then we had to increase gas and diesel prices by another $150,000. Then health care benefits, dental, prescription, which again, under contract, we're obligated to pay for 2 more years, come in at $962,000. And yet we had a $429,000 reduction in the budget. I think that's pretty good. But I'll tell you this, I agree with Councilman Brown that the system is broke. I think this governing body should adopt the Faulkner Act, where I am then responsible for the budget. And then you won't have a political football back and forth. One person will be responsible, no different than the governor, no different than the President of the United States. And then the governing body, either by majority vote, votes on the budget, or modifies it by 2/3%. But the buck will stop at one person, not with a 3-person Personnel Finance Committee, and not with other council persons voting no, but not giving any reasons or concrete proposals on how to reduce the budget further. Again, I have no vote on this budget, but just for the record, I support it. And I commend the Personnel and Finance Committee for working as hard as they can and prepared to take the hit, because nobody likes to increase taxes. But unfortunately, in our position right now, taxes are going to have to be increased. But I guarantee the people, and I will speak further on it in the future, that come 2014, that's only a year and a half away, you're going to see a renaissance in the city of Linden when it comes to the economy. Because we have a lot of development that's going to start taking place next year in 2013 through all the litigation that's taken 5.5 years of my administration to try to resolve. And I'm going to talk more about that in the future. But right now, we've done the best we can with this budget, brought it onto last year's budget, and therefore I support it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just spoke with our city attorney, and I asked if it was in stone, the committees that I appoint, because they're appointed for a year, and he said that I could change them. I'm going to start this week forming a new budget and personnel committee, and new blood, new ideas, hopefully new results. So, Mr. Clerk, will you read the budget resolution?
Be resolved by the City Council of the City of Linden, County of Union, that the budget herein set forth is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purposes of the sums therein as set forth as appropriations, and authorization of the amount of $50,398,096.64 for municipal purposes, $1,925,079.45, the minimum library levy. General revenue surplus anticipated $8,350,000. Miscellaneous revenues anticipated $33,505,958.98. Receipts from delinquent taxes $1,500,000. 2, amount to be raised by taxation for municipal purposes, $50,398,096.64. Amount to be raised by taxation for the minimum library levy, $1,870,859.26. Total revenues, $95,624,914.88. General appropriations within caps, operating including contingent, $67,439,170.11. Deferred charges and statutory expenditures municipal, $9,948,794.19. Excluded from caps, operations total excluded from caps, $3,657,150.58. Capital improvements, $125,000. Municipal debt service, $10,554,800. Reserves for uncollected taxes, $3,900,000. Total appropriations, $95,624,914.88.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Armstead, will you make a motion?
Yes, Mr. President, I move that the 2012 budget hearing be closed and the ordinance adopted, and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
No.
Koziel?
No.
Brown?
No.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
No.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
No.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We're going to move on to ordinance continued from last month. This is the date and time established for public hearing, ordinance 5626, continued from last month. Mr. Clerk, would you please read 5626?
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-33, Handicap Parking Regulations, 7-33.1A, Handicap Parking on Street, as amended last month to 407 Washington Avenue on the list. Delete 644 Academy Terrace, 331 Ashton Avenue, 725 East Elizabeth Avenue, 220 West Linden Avenue, 817 Passaic Avenue, 309-2 Roselle Street, 407 Washington Avenue, 1116 Winans Avenue, 301 Woodlawn Avenue, 640 Morningside Avenue, 114 East Munsell Avenue, 1212 Passaic Avenue, 507 Rosewood Terrace, 1106A North Style Street, 10A University Circle, 1129A University Terrace, 507 Washington Avenue, 32 West 15th Street, 203 West 16th Street, 2060 20th Street, Minor Terrace for 317 Canop Street, Minor Terrace for 400 Canop Street, Middlesex Street off of McCandless Street, 631 Meekum Avenue, 322 Ashton Avenue, 214 East Curtis, 802 Lindegar, 34 West 19th Street, 1156 Passaic Avenue, 929 Seymour, 427 Washington, 1410 Southwood Avenue, West Linden Avenue, 31 East Munsell Avenue, 1122 Passaic Avenue, 510 East Price Street, 550 Rosewood Terrace, 1315 Summit Terrace, 14A University Circle, 1130A University Terrace, 18 East 12th Street, 119 West 15th Street, 40 East 19th Street, 115 East 20th Street.
Is the ordinance properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Has there been any written communication received?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Motion, please.
Okay, I move to close the public hearing of ordinance 56-26. Move for approval and request the second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamikaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. We're going to move on to ordinance on hearing. Ordinance on hearing, this is the date and time established for the public hearing for ordinance on hearing. We'll start with 5628.
An ordinance to amend an ordinance establishing a schedule of titles, salary ranges, and regulations for maintaining the classification and salary standardization plan for all employees shall be amended as follows. Schedule 4GG-3.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Has there been any written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Motion, please. I'm sorry, Pat Hero, please, come on up.
Pat Hero, Wheatsheaf Road. First of all, the problem with, I think, a lot of these scheduled title salary ranges and regulations is that the salary ranges generally tend to be too broad, is what I've noticed. But with this, with regard to reducing the minimum, perhaps one should consider reducing the maximum also. However, I'd like to know what is what is the current assistant municipal attorney and also public defender salary, and what is it being reduced to?
This is for a new position. The current salaries are already there. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I believe Mr. Scutari is in 70,000, and Mr. Scutari is about 70,000, and Mr. McCarthy is about 68 and change. The public defender, current public defender, is about 29,000 or so, about 35,000. This is to set a lower standard so that new people coming in, a new assistant city attorney, public municipal prosecutor would be 30,000. If there's another public defender brought in, wouldn't need that salary would be 20,000. So the lowering the starting range. In other words, the old range was simply the min and max were the same. What we're doing is setting a lower minimum, so anyone coming in
now will come in at a lower range rather than coming in at a high max.
Wouldn't that, though, reduce perhaps the quality of some of the people we would be getting for the public defender if it's only 20,000?
Not necessarily, because right now we're paying, right now there's no plans to hire a public defender. The judge is working on with the court schedule and the current public defender, but this was in preparation that possibly we might need one at the end of the year. I'll review it with the judge because although the public defender is not in my department budget pays for the public defenders, and we pay for the outside public defenders to handle cases when there's conflicts or when the public defender is not available. So it's how much money I pay per session out of my budget, and if it's equal to or more than that $20,000, then my recommendation would be to hire another public defender rather than paying per diem attorneys to come in.
Exactly, well, that would make sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishes to be heard? Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move the hearing be closed and the ordinance adopted and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbas?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5630.
29.
29.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7, Traffic shall be amended as follows. Section 7-10, parking prohibited at all times on certain streets. Name of street, add Mitchell Avenue East Side. Location starting from a point 563 feet from the southerly projected curb line of West Simpson Avenue and proceeding 15 feet southerly. Mitchell Avenue West Side starting from a point 562 feet from the southerly projected curb line of West Simpson Avenue and proceeding 15 feet southerly.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Has there been any written communication received?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Motion, please.
I move to close the public hearing of ordinance 56-29 and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbas?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. Okay, 5630.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 10, Building and Housing shall be amended as follows. Chapter 10, 10-2, Building and Housing Fees.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Has there been any written communication received?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the ordinance? Motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move hearing be closed and ordinance 5630 be adopted and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbas?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5631.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7, Traffic shall be amended as follows. 7-33, Handicap Parking Regulations. 7-33.1A, Handicap Parking on Street. Delete 12 Maple Avenue, 1 space, 1147 Passaic Avenue, 1 space.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received any written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the ordinance? Motion, please.
I make a motion for the passage of ordinance 56-31 and seek a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbas?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5632.
An ordinance to establish a cap bank for the calendar year 2012.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received any written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? May I have a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I move that the hearing be closed and the ordinance adopted and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbas?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5634.
Bond ordinance providing for the appropriation of $550,000 for acquisition of computer equipment for the public safety departments and authorizing the issuance of $522,500 in bonds or notes to finance part of the cost.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received any written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Motion, please.
Yes, Mr.
President, Council President.
I'm sorry, Pat Hero. Better get your bigger arm.
500,000 here, 500,000 there. Pretty soon we're talking about real money. And some of us just hope to have $5 and dream of having $5 so we can go to a local burger joint to have some burgers, but that's too expensive for some of us. And yet you're talking about $550,000 for acquisition of computer equipment. Yes, I do believe that public safety is the first thing for government, but still $550,000 in this time? I mean, yeah, computers are somewhat expensive and computer programs are somewhat expensive, but we're talking, can I say this again? $550,000 for public safety? That would imagine that would be the police and the fire department. I would love to see a breakdown of what we would be getting for this. I mean, are these gold-plated computers? You know, is this like the last program Steve Jobs ever wrote? I mean, what is so expensive? $550,000 is a lot of money, and we're going to be bonding this out again too. Just doesn't make any sense. Maybe couldn't we do it on a as-needed basis? Yeah, I know we're way behind in our computer stuff, but you know, do the bare minimum and then each year try to add to this. It just doesn't seem to be in these times a lot of money, and I'm not sure why we need all of this all at once. Someone can explain to me. I'd love to hear it.
I guess I'll go first. This was brought up last month. A lot of people had questions, and I think Alexis was out today, and I know she'll elaborate a little bit more. But this isn't part of the capital budget, and this is just one piece of updating the computer system. And it sounds like we're just buying computers, but it's a whole total infrastructure that needs to be that's been outdated. You know, this is a request that the police department has been making for years. We're way behind to the point where Microsoft won't be supporting the programs and operating system that we have on these computers. I know, again, it sounds like a lot, but I don't know if Alexis, you explain this a little bit more.
Yes, the Finance Personnel Committee has met numerous times with the police chief and their IT department in reference to their computer needs. The actual request was well over $1.5 million. What the Finance Committee discussed was to try to do this in a phased period to address the most critical items of the police department. I'm just trying to thumb through to see the exact reasons that they needed this request. I know off the top of my head that $400,000 was for a new CAD system. We had discovered the existing CAD system that we presently have as right now has certain glitches that basically are unacceptable. We need to have a new CAD system put into place. The chief can explain what the CAD system is. I don't know the technical nature of it, but I know that that was one of the large requests of $400,000. There had been requests of various printers, computers, and laptops in the various automobiles that, again, it's not that they're replacing every single computer. It's certain ones that are just beyond repair, beyond servicing. As Councilman Brown and Councilman Koziel can attest to, there's certain equipment that cannot even be serviced under the existing service agreements. There's no way that they can be repaired. The other item that they discussed was a video system in the police cars that needs to be addressed, and a switches for a computer network and servers. So if we totaled their total request, it was $1.5 million. The committee at this time could not commit to $1.5 million worth of expenditures just in the police department alone. They want to try to do it between a 3 and a 5-year phase-in period to address the most emergent natures of the police, fire, and central dispatch. Under this capital project, it would entail touching upon the fire department, police department, and central dispatch department under this bond ordinance. The bond ordinance that was put up last month, but unfortunately I was ill, was the fact that that was for non-public safety computers, and that hasn't made the agenda yet. I'm hoping to again speak with the committee and the council and possibly put that forward in the future for consideration. That's to take care of the non-public safety computers that are antiquated from the Y2K program. A lot of them haven't been updated since 1999 or 2000. And as Councilman Brown can attest to, there's certain items that Microsoft cannot even support any longer. So we need to upgrade our infrastructure when it comes to the computers. If the police chief wants to comment additionally as to the CAD system, I'm sure he can explain that in better detail than I could.
Councilman Brown, you have a comment?
Yeah, and one of the things was here, again, yes, this is a big number, and I talk about financial planning. This isn't a one-shot where this is coming out of the budget, and I think it's important for residents to know that, Alexis, if you can explain this too, is that when we bond this, basically we're leveling our debt. We're not looking to increase our debt, but you structured this in a way where basically as we have debt that's going to be retiring, we're plugging this in so our debt services are going to be leveled and we're not looking to increase. I mean, this is the planning that we should be doing. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit more, Alexis, how this is?
Yes, sir. The Councilman Brown was stating was in reference to the capital budget. You hear the number of $500,000 for this computers. What this does is if this council appropriates that money tonight, it would be done through what's called a bond ordinance. The bond ordinance would pass based on a 2/3 vote of the governing body. If that did pass, we would do temporary financing. We just did that last month, temporary financing. When we look at our debt service structure over a 15, 20-year period, we look to see when that debt is going to drop off, so we always kind of remain level. We won't borrow this money for this $500,000 project if this bond ordinance passes, probably for another 2 years, because we just went for a bond issue about last year. So in another 2 years, we'll look to permanently finance our unfunded debt. So this ordinance will allow us and authorize us to fund the project through temporary financing, and then within a 2-year period, we would permanently finance the debt as our existing debt has dropped off. So it always remains level at that roughly $10,500,000 figure for our debt service. So even if this council voted against this ordinance, it would have no impact whatsoever on your current fund 2012 municipal budget, because the debt service is still the debt service is still going to remain the same no matter what. This in future budgets, this will be permanently financed, but again, it will be part of the debt service that's already structured in the 2012 budget.
Thank you.
Chief, you wish to tell us what the CAD system is?
CAD system is computer-aided dispatch.
Could you use the mic, please?
Got that up? All right, it's computer-aided dispatch. What happens is when a call comes in, it goes into the computer breaks down any calls that we got there previously, any weapons at the house, any warrants out for the person. The problem we have is they put this CAD system a few years back from a company in Connecticut. We are now one of only 3 departments in New Jersey that still utilize this company. The company is very slow to respond to anything that we need because there's only 3 in New Jersey, and they don't get back to us. Things are breaking down. We call them. We bought a mapping system that since the beginning they had the airport in the wrong location in the city, and we've been trying to get it fixed. They haven't fixed it at all. So in researching it, we'd be better off with the surrounding towns all utilizing the same CAD system, so this way we can share service and people respond immediately, and this is why we wanted to upgrade that part. The second part is the video in-car video system. The in-car video system, ICOP, went out of business a few years ago. We were just like piecemealing the parts back together to try to keep it going. The benefit of the in-car video is if there's one lawsuit, if we have the video to show what actually happened, that'll pay for itself tenfold because it'll stop any lawsuit. We recently had a few complaints of police brutality where the prosecutor reviewed the video and because of the video, says that no wrongdoing was on the part of the officers. So this is why that part is vital. We need that upgraded, and right now it's just held together with tape and rubber bands.
Thank you, Chief.
Well, that definitely does make sense. It would be interesting to know how much that is, as opposed to like some of these things like upgrading windows and stuff, which I understand is needed, but still, it doesn't seem like that part would be that expensive. This part might be, and I understand that. Thank you.
Mr. Cozio?
I'm going to address, Mrs. Hero sat down, but I'll address some of those items. Ms. Hero, you're aware, obviously, that there's a technology committee that Council President formed to evaluate the IT infrastructure in the city. It's not just like we went out and said, we want a bunch of new computers for everybody. There was an evaluation done. You saw a nice young lady here this morning, or I should say this evening, Nancy, who aided in the presentation. She helps with a lot of IT support and is our main liaison with Pascack Data, who is our support mechanism off-site for all of our IT needs. Also, you heard from Chief Bavona. This item here, 5633, deals specifically with public safety. Now, we had a presentation, short presentation about a month ago. I don't know if you were in the room or whether you were allowed to be. I forget when it was exactly. But we had two individuals who work for the municipality, who deal with IT every day, come in and in layman's terms lay out to all of us in what dire need our IT infrastructure is. I will have a list for you next month, basically how our IT measures up. The age of the hardware, the age of the software. We have software that's over 12 years old. We have hardware that's over 12 years old. Chief isn't lying when he states that when some of our other, not public safety, but some of our other computers break, there's no way to get parts. There's no way you can get a service contract with most, if not all, PCs in City Hall right now. What do you do? Right now, because we're not using virtualization, each computer is loaded with software. Each computer has its own hard drive. Each computer has its own everything. It's its own entity, and it's tied into a network. Hopefully, if we place back, and I'm going to ask that we place back 5633 for next month, which deals with the rest of the municipality, we can deal with what's called virtualization, in that each workstation is free of software. Everything is downloaded through password off of a major server. Now, as far as our public safety goes, we have major server issues. Storage of data, security of data, that is, I don't want to say being compromised, but we need to upgrade it, and we need to upgrade it immediately. And when somebody who deals with it every day tells you how serious it is in layman's terms, it's a sobering fact, and you do have to take notice. So we had the presentation. Unfortunately, some people decided that the municipality section of it was not that vital, and that was voted down last month. However, we have to start here. This is something that you really can't wait any longer on, because if you do, it's going to cost more and more to fix, take more man hours. We're talking about saving money in the budget. We're talking about being more efficient. If we improve and spend some dollars here, we can save this sometimes 2- and 3-fold on the back end in our budget, just by being more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else wishes to speak on this ordinance? Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Prior to the motion, I will just say that this equipment is definitely necessary. I know these are some very difficult economic times, and I would assure you that we would not expend this type of money if it was not needed. The infrastructure in the city has deteriorated with regards to our computer hardware and our software. It really becomes more of a public safety issue when you're dealing with the equipment that we're purchasing at this point, and the lion's share of the equipment will be in the police department and other areas of public safety. And again, I would assure the public that we would not expend this kind of money if it wasn't necessary. So with that, I move that the hearing be closed and ordinance number 5634 be approved.
Mr. Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
No.
Yamakitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5635.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7 Traffic shall be amended as follows. Section 7-22.1, four-way stop intersections shall be amended as follows. Intersections, add Gessner Street, stop sign to be located on Gessner Street and Summit Street. Add Summit Street, stop sign to be located on Summit Street and Gessner Street.
Mr. Clerk, has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received any written communication on?
No,
ordinance?
sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to discuss the ordinance? May I have a motion, please?
Council President, I ask the hearing be closed and ordinance 5635 be adopted and seek a second.
Second.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. And at this time, I'm going to take leave and turn the floor over to the Council President Pro Tem, Mr. Frazier.
Bob, give me a second.
No, wait, he has to stand too. He's got to stand.
Don't hit me in the head, please.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to carry on right now. I'm going to activate the position of Councilman Pro Tem. Presently, at this time, we're going to go into the communications and consent agenda. And all items listed with asterisks are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in the normal sequence of the agenda. Items 1 through 7. Does anyone wish to remove an item? If not, at this point, then I ask for a motion.
What is this?
Okay, I move to approve consent item 1 through 7 and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes to all except number 7.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. Okay, at this particular point, we're going to go into committee reports and comments from the members of the governing body. In ward order, starting with ward number 1.
Thank you, Council President. I have a very important message concerning cooling centers in Linden. With the very hot weather coming, we will be using the same procedure as last year for cooling centers. The following municipal buildings will be our cooling centers during the normal operating hours. These buildings are air-conditioned and have a water fountain. These buildings are the Linden Library, located at 31 East Henry Street, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 9 p.m., Friday, 9:30 to 5 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and closed Sunday. The Linden Multi-Purpose Center at 1025 John Street, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 10 p.m., closed Saturday and Sunday. the John T. Gregorio Recreation Center, 330 Helen Street, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 p.m., and closed Saturday and Sunday. This was submitted by Kathy Coughlin, Linden Office of Emergency Management. I'll make my report brief. I appreciate the support I had on council for adopting the four-way stop that will be located on the corners of Gessner Street and Summit Street, right by the high school. I think it's very imperative that these stop signs were put in due to the heavy volume that comes off St. George Avenue as a side street. People seem to fly right through Gessner, so hopefully this will alleviate the accidents and the foot traffic that we have during the day at school. It's good that it's going in now. That's being the last day of school on Friday, and you'll see signs, so hopefully by July 1st they go in. So residents of all of Linden get used to the fact that there will be a four-way stop there. So when school starts in September, everybody should be acclimated. Any First Ward resident who has a concern or a question, please contact me at 908-925-5568. And I want to thank the residents of the First Ward for coming out on primary day and giving me a vote of confidence and re-electing me in the Democratic primary as your candidate. I appreciate all your support. And again, thank you very much. This concludes my report, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Colbus. At this particular time, Mr. Koziol, please.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I did have some words on the municipal budget. However, I did state most of what I wanted to talk about before, but Councilman Jack Sheehy said something that resonated with me, and I just want to say the same. He felt what he was doing was right. I think so do I. I know so do I, and I think most people do. You've heard me time and time again publicly, many more times in other committee meetings, talk about not so much chipping away at the budget, but the method in which the budget is presented and built. Sometimes it's not how many times you go back and look at it. Sometimes it's the way that you build it. And again, I mean, we had an established budget committee that was working, that was exploring. It was disbanded, and here we are, and we have the same structure we had. And it's no fault of anyone's, but it's still the same structure. When things don't change, you change the structure. It doesn't mean you change government. It means you could change a committee or two and let other people try and let other methods happen. But something as drastic as changing government, many, many more things can be tried prior to that. The Technology Committee will convene next week to continue discussions and evaluations on our IT infrastructure. You heard a lot of that tonight. We'll assess technology needs for the future. And as Councilman Brown said, we do have to look in most areas 2 and 3 and 4 years down the line so that we don't find ourselves with 10 or 12-year-old computers that we can't fix and we can't get maintenance contracts on. Also discussed will be the review and development of more specific policy regarding the proper usage of municipal technology assets, hardware, and access to the city's network and files. The City Special Improvement District, the CID Committee, will meet tomorrow to discuss the upgrades expected on the awning replacements and the facade improvements on Wood Avenue, and a working design that I mentioned just prior to this meeting of Shop Downtown Linden's CID website. Will be, I want to say, it will be seen for the first time. It won't be operational, but we are working on a website to help enhance the attraction of our downtown businesses, and we hope we have a lot of buy-in. We know the CID members like the idea. In the past, we've done newspaper ads, we've done collateral, we've done direct mail, and that's all well and good, and it works, but it hits the house, sits for a few days, maybe you put it in a calendar, maybe you don't. But a website, like a municipal website, really touting our businesses and our commercial opportunities downtown, it'll work 24/7. And if somebody has a sale, if somebody has a coupon, that could be used. So it's going to be something with an interactive map that we can draw people downtown and make our downtown even more viable than it is. Revenue Enhancement Committee. We will convene next week as well, hopefully, to discuss and consider ways to increase municipal revenue through review of current practices, and look at the possibility of exploring and soliciting other economic development sources. Councilman Kozinski and I met a few weeks back, and it was interesting. We both went away with the same task, and we came back, and I think 80% of what we had was pretty much the same, so we're very much on the same wavelength. And I think by the next meeting, by the July meeting, we're going to bring a recommendation to council on some pretty creative ideas on how to increase some revenue. Removal of city trees. I'd just like to remind all city residents, please do not trim, cut down, or hire a contractor to remove a city tree without permit or approvals from the city. The determination to trim or remove a city tree falls under the oversight of Linden's Shade Tree Commissioner and our Public Works Department. They both do a fabulous job. If in doubt, please call me or your respective council member, depending on where you live, to examine the tree and advise you on the proper legal course of action. Because as I learned recently, the potential fine for such an action could be considerable. But please do things the right way. Second ward specific items, ward traffic and recent accidents. I've been paying very close attention to the traffic situation, vehicle speed and congestion at the intersection of Style Street and West Blanky Street. This intersection, because of its proximity to West Elizabeth Avenue, continues to be a problem because of its offset design and severe line-of-sight angles and dangerous turning attempts. I think everybody knows the intersection. It's very congested. School 8 is a block or two away. When the streets were designed, I have a map as old as some of these. You saw it at the historical event. It dates back to the turn of the century. The roads were basically laid out back then. No one knew what we would have, the retail, what we would, and it just doesn't make sense anymore. And what I'm asking the police department to do is take a look at it and institute another traffic study for the purpose of vehicle counts, timing of turns, and backup from West Elizabeth Avenue. So hopefully we could continue some research into getting either an improved signal there or at least a blinker. There have also been recent accidents on DeWitt Street and cross streets. Specifically West Elm, West Henry. Neighbors have become increasingly concerned that despite very visible signage, blinking lights, and etc., that these cross sections remain some of the most hazardous in the city. Because mind you, coming off of St. George Avenue, you come down the hill by the AA field, there's no stop until the Knopf Street light. What I'd like to see happen, I know we've instituted, and I'm not a huge fan of them, but when they work, they work. But I'd like to explore a four-way stop sign at the corner of West Henry and DeWitt to slow down that traffic 2 blocks prior to the Knopf Street light. It seems to make sense because as they're coming down off of that hill from Curtis and Gibbons, they're flying. And what people do now, if they want to bypass that congestion downtown, they're coming up to DeWitt, they're coming down cross streets, and they're going all the way down to West Blanky, then down West Blanky and Price to beat that traffic. And it's really not a safe situation, so I'm going to look for some help on that from our police department. The resurfacing of Noski Second Ward Park Playground. Mr. McDonald gave us the good news yesterday that we could expect that in, if not this week, but in the next few weeks. Many of the issues that we found during an inspection, Mr. McDonald said will be taken care of during the renovation of the court, and that includes some landscaping and some needed repair to the benches in the Parks Recreation Building, which is looking, it's looking its age. But every now and then that needs a little sprucing up. Street resurfacing, reconstruction of curb, sidewalks, and pavement, milling and resurfacing of Bradford from West Blanky to Elizabeth Avenue will be done this year. Only if and when the sewer work is completed will that project begin, and that leads me to the West Elizabeth Avenue Flood Control Project. If anybody has been turned right off of Stiles and down towards Rahway, you see the intensity of that job down there. Right now they're putting in huge 5 and 6 foot sewer mains to take that water in case of a flood away from that area. We know how low it is due to the hurricane we had last year, and we had severe damage to some homeowners' properties. So that's going to help, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm also trying to get in touch with Rahway's councilman who represents the area, and Councilman Brown and I were actually in a car that night, and I told him, I took him to an unimproved culvert on Lower Alden Road in Rahway, and I said, watch this. In the next hour, this is going to breach the road, it's going to go southerly, and it's going to flood down on Bradford, down by Amici's. Sure enough, it did. And it's a problem that can be fixed collectively. Linden's making an effort. I'm going to do every effort that I can to work collectively with Rahway and their representatives to get this done. and I'm hoping that that'll happen. Sidewalk repair, if you have a sidewalk in need of repair, or if damage has occurred due to a tree, our list is due in this weekend. I have a list, but if there's something I missed that you don't know if it's a tree damage or not, please call me. We'll evaluate it and get it on the list. You may hear this from one or two other people. It's summer, yard sales, signs and permits. If you get a permit and you put a sign up and you have your yard sale and you make money, go take the sign down. Don't leave the sign up, because on a weekend it could be all over the place. And Mr. Frazier, after you mentioned it, you're absolutely right, and that's his little bugaboo, but he's absolutely right. It's not attractive, but draw people to the house. When it's done, you pack everything away, go take the sign down. I'll talk a little bit, last thing, about availability, visibility, and access. Had a young lady come to my door wanting to know if the councilman lived here. Sometimes I worry about if I'm too visible, and apparently I'm not visible enough to some. I'm on the internet, I'm on Facebook, I'm in the phone book, I'm on the city website. Grab me anytime, call me, email me, I will be there. I can't believe that somebody still doesn't know where I am. And I said to the young lady, I've met you several times, you don't remember me, obviously. But please reach out. If there's anything that we could do for you up here collectively, please reach out. We're always available. And that's it, end of report. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Koziol. At this time, Mr. Brown, please.
Okay, this, two things, third ward related. First, Tyrone, he's been doing an awesome job of getting our crosswalks done in awards. So as you go through our ward, you see the crosswalks are being repainted. Al's going to have some people out there doing the curbs, so you'll be seeing a nice new look within our ward in that. Second, I have to thank Walter. He's in charge of our public works department here. I've been getting phone calls as well as everybody else here about grass being the grass that needs to be cut. Public works has been backed up. Walter, he's been out there, rather than be in the office, he's been out there helping out the men. And I just can't say enough to our public works department that's really been stepping up, helping getting the lawns cut. And just to the residents out there, I mean, I don't want you thinking that City Hall is ignoring you or Public Works or the Board of Health, but they're trying to get the lawn done as quickly as possible. I think even working on weekends now, right? So that's it, end of report.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Armstead, please.
Yes, thank you, Council President Pro Tem. I have the following reports. It appears that last month we missed the report for transportation and parking, so I'll do that one twice. I hereby submit the following report for the Division of Transportation and Parking. The collection of parking meters, railroad, daily parking lots, merchant parking permits, and railroad parking permits were made for the month of April 2012. Credit card transactions, there were $13,100.88. Railroad permits, there were $5,510.77. Railroad daily New York side, it was $7,252, and Railroad daily Trenton side, $8,018. Parking meters, $12,006.40, and merchant parking permits that were issued, there were $80.25, for a grand total for the month of April of $45,968.30. I'm going to redo that report for the month of May. Credit card transactions were $13,322.23. Railroad permits were $1,438.71. Railroad daily New York side was $8,138, and Railroad daily Trenton side was $7,432. The parking meters were $15,887.60, and the merchant parking permits issued were $294.24, with a grand total of $46,512.78. And again, that is for the month of May 2012. The following licenses, permits, and transcripts issued in the City Clerk's office during the month of May 2012 and fees received have been turned over to the Treasurer of the City of Linden. There was 146 birth, death, and marriage transcripts for $2,190. There were 18 marriage and civil union licenses for $54, and $450 going to state revenue. There was one domestic partnership. The city's revenue was $3. The state's revenue was $25. There was 22 miscellaneous revenues at $69.30. There were 4 bingo raffles issued for $80. And there were 235 EDRS vital statistics for $4,050. There were 0 burial permit fees. The total with the city revenue and the state revenue was $6,921.30. The city clerk's licensing division submitted this monthly report for the month of May 2012. The office issued 549 miscellaneous licenses and collected $11,350, and that's from Joan Turbert. As usual, before we read the personal and finance report, there should be a copy down below. For anyone who has any questions regarding the personal and finance report, feel free to do so now. Seeing none, I'll move for approval on the following personal and financial actions. I'll read them one at a time and request a yea or a nay vote. Number 1, personnel required to carry out the Department of Public Property and Community Services seasonal program. The list is on file in the Treasurer's office. Move for approval for that item and request a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore? I'm sorry.
Item number 2. Approval is requested for personnel requested to carry out the 2012 Clean Communities and Summer Help Programs. The list is on file in the Engineering Department. Move for approval and request a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
The payment of bills totaling $2,193,664.80. The bills have been signed by the mayor, council president, and finance chairman. And a detailed check register and vouchers are in the file, on file in the clerk's office. Move for approval and request a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Item number 4. We are in receipt of investments made by the city treasurer for the month of May at a rate of 0.75%. I move for approval and ask for a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
That concludes my reports, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Armstead. Mrs. Cosby Hurling, please.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. Good evening, everyone at home. I'd like to congratulate Councilman Koziel, I'm sorry, Calabas, on his win. Good job. Looking forward to continuing to serve with you here. From the Recycling Committee, the mayor actually sent suggestions regarding encouraging the residents to recycle when they have events in the park, and it's a great idea. We should be doing that. It's going to help us to increase our revenue. So the Recycling Committee will be meeting within the next 2 weeks, and we're going to find out how we can creatively and economically make this happen, whether we get receptacles or we get some assistance from the Environmental Commission. Whatever we can do to make this happen, we definitely want to do that. From the Housing Authority, we have applications. I actually have brought some with me tonight. Applications, for the John T. Gregorio Center. These applications are available tomorrow. The last day to pick them up will be at 9:30 to 4 o'clock at the John T. Gregorio building, 1425 Dill Avenue. there are specific instructions, and I'm just going to say so that you don't waste your time. If you are a single individual and you make more than $31,750, you can't qualify. If you are a couple and you make more than $36,300, you don't qualify for these one-bedroom apartments. If you need an application, please call me if you can't get over to the center, because after tomorrow you can't pick any up from there. So my number is 908-477-4120, and you also must be 62 years of age at the time of the application. Tomorrow is the reorg for the Housing Authority, Monroe Corporation, and Linden Housing Authority. I'm going to attend that meeting tomorrow. But I do want to just make mention that there is a vacancy that currently exists because one of the commissioners resigned. And I spoke with Mrs. Ferguson, and if you are interested, please consider downloading or picking up the volunteer form so that you can put in your application. It's the volunteer commissioner position, and we'll approve that next month. But there is a vacancy that exists, and we just wanted to let the public know before any appointments were made so that we can be fair to everyone. The summer food program, I know I've talked about that quite a bit, and I'm actually pleased to inform the city that we do have the summer food program. It's going to be put on by the Communities in Cooperation, and they're going to be doing it at LMPC because that's where, you know, they've been approved to work from that site. Every school-age child in Linden is eligible. We received notice in February that 3,500 plus Linden children were eligible, and they will be able to go to the center this summer, whether they're at home or they play in the playgrounds. If they work during the summer in the city of Linden for public property and they can get, you know, from 12 to 1 over to the center, they can have a free, nutritious lunch provided for them by a state-approved vendor. This is an awesome program. It's put on by many, many municipalities, and it's a state program. Doesn't cost the city of Linden anything, and our children will benefit. We also have the children who are registered in the day camps. They will benefit because the vendor will deliver to any child at the park site that registers, and it's free registration, of course. Anybody who registers can have their lunch delivered to that park. And we know that sometimes it becomes a challenge for parents. I know it was a challenge for me personally to pack lunch, and it, you know, stuff melts, and my kids like tuna fish and all kind of challenges. But if the child is wanting to participate, the parent simply needs to register. I'm going to give you the number to the Communities in Cooperation. It's 908-290-3107. Again, it's for all children in the city of Linden that are school age. Everyone is eligible. I'd like to thank Pamela Jones and her staff for putting this on for us when we couldn't find another way. From our ward, I want to give a mention for Mrs. Stephanie M. and Miss Rosa S. These are two of our seasoned neighbors who actually take care of the garden at IOZ Park, the water garden. It is beautiful. I actually tweeted a picture of Miss Stephanie a couple of weeks ago and just went over, I saw her working, just stopped in and said thank you because she's doing it. These ladies are doing it because they want to, and they're volunteering. So I wanted to just let them know that we appreciate them in public. I also spoke with Jeff Tandle, who's our Shade Tree Commissioner, and he's going to come out with me and visit our neighborhood again, and we're going to go to the park and try and find if there are any shrubberies that we can put into that rain garden, because Miss Stephanie's looking for other items to go into the little rain garden there. On June 27th, Wednesday, next week, we're going to have a community meeting. LMPC is going to be at 7 o'clock. Police department will be there, as will the health department. So if you are able to make it, come out at 7 o'clock. We usually take maybe an hour and 15 minutes to give you good information, and we'll be there from 7 o'clock on Wednesday for you. It's a community meeting. Sidewalks deteriorating or damaged by the city trees. I did some riding around, I did some walking around the neighborhood, but in the event that I missed anything, please send me your information. Our list was supposed to close last week, but thank you, Mr. Verchick. He's given us a pass until Thursday. So please get whatever you have to myself or any other council member up here about the sidewalks, no later than Thursday. I would like to thank the Traffic Bureau for we're going to have soon in our neighborhood near 5th Ward Park and Charles Street Park, we're going to have the little reminders that you want to slow down for pedestrians because it's summertime and we're going to put these where the parks are, where the children have high traffic. So I want to thank traffic for thinking about our ward and the safety of our children. I'd like to just make a mention that Mr. Verchick and engineering helped us because this could have been a catastrophe. There was a small water leak under the ground on Union Street near the multipurpose center. And I just happened to be walking one night and I saw it. I'm like, well, maybe someone washed their car or spilled something out of the car. The next day I came in the morning, the ground was still wet. There was actually a water leak under the ground. So thank God, for George, and he got to the water company and they were out in 3 days. So that was handled. I want to thank Mr. McDonald and his crew for getting us those water fountains at Iose Park and Charles Street Park. They're going to be a benefit, definitely, for our neighbors that are walking in the park and for the children playing in the park. And they were missed. So thank you again, Mr. McDonald, for that. I'd like to congratulate our neighbor, Vincent DePaul Polakowski, again for his Eagle Scout, and he invited me to the ceremony. It was very nice. His family's very proud, and I'm proud that he's a resident of Linden, a member of the 5th Ward community. If you guys don't remember, he's the young man who actually took it upon himself to clean the creek at Iose Park. He painted the gazebo. He planted a tree, and he also made a cash donation of the leftover money that he had raised for his Eagle Scout. So again, congratulations to you, Vinny, and thank you. I'd like to give advance congratulations and thank you to Mr. Michael Statham, who is volunteering to be a constable, which is a peace officer, for the city of Linden. For those of you who don't know, we actually have 50 positions. And if you want to help the court, the police, or you have, an affinity for peace, you can, be a constable too. It's not anything that's really serious. So send in a letter to your council person, but again, in advance, congratulations and thank you for serving Mr. Statham. Congratulations to the Linden High School graduates of 2012. Please come back and serve the city. We need you, hometown, homegrown. And I think that's all I have. No, I don't. Engineering. I almost forgot my engineering report. All the work was completed on the improvements for Bryant Place, Jackson Avenue, Alberta Avenue, East 10th Street, Clinton Street, Malcolm Place, and Peter Street. And there are minor punch list items that still remain to be done. For the removal of the underground gasoline tank at the LMPC, we should have some work done soon, the next couple of weeks in July, because all of the permits were, secured and everything. So we should see some movement on that, and there will be no impact to the activity at the center because it's under the ground in front of the sidewalk. Finally, from engineering, the New Jersey Department of Transportation has confirmed that this autumn resurfacing of East St. George's Avenue will take place from Elizabeth to Rawway. So for all of us who have those complaints about the cracks, the divots, the potholes in St. George's Avenue, we'll have relief this fall. The last thing that I do have, I actually got this from Senator Scutari's office, and for anyone who needs to have a cancer screening done, a male or a female, you actually can go here in Union County for free cervical exams, breast exams, free mammograms for men and women. This is going to be for the remainder of the month in June. This is going to be at 123 Park Avenue in Plainfield. You need to make an appointment, however. So if you want to make an appointment for free cancer screening, call 908-756-3736. And that concludes my report. Thank you. I heard that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Cosby Harlan. Moving on at this particular time, Mr. Sadowski.
Thank you, Council President. My report's a little bit shorter. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Sadowski.
Real quickly, I have about 4 or 5 different things. First, with the summer coming, please be careful with the children out of school. It's that time again. Also, it's scamming time again. We talk with the seniors. One of the biggest scams going around now is they come and want to do your chimney sweeps. Remember, please don't let anyone in your house. And anyone who comes around, they have to have a permit by the city. Please ask for that. If they don't have it, call the cops right away. With Emma Street and Clinton Street, we are still trying, with the engineering department, still trying to work out something with the flooding. I talked to Mr. Verchik. Mr. Verchik gave me a lot of information. And to be truthful, it's a long road ahead. We can't say, hey, next year it's going to be fixed, but we are trying. So please, if you have any questions about it, give me a call. One of the biggest complaints, of course, is speeding in the city, not just in 6th Ward, all the other wards. Please, watch yourself, and if you're driving, please slow down. The other is with the curbs. Don't park, next to the curb, next to the corner. In fact, if there's a fire hydrant, you have to be 10 feet away. Stop sign, legally 50 feet. Crosswalk, 25 feet. Or if it's a corner, as long as the yellow line's there, you can't park. So please keep that in mind. The other thing is with the curbing your dog. I've had last week, two complaints of people complaining about people not curbing the dog, just letting the dog do its duty and just walking past. I mean, come on. This is a city. We're working together. Please, keep it clean. Same thing, the sidewalks. I already had people calling about sidewalks and trees. I did walk the ward about 2 weeks ago. But still, if you have anything, please give me a call at 862-0749. I will definitely get back to you. And one of the last ones is the people dealing with the Wawa at Smith and Hampton Street. This came up about a month and a half ago. It was dropped. They are starting back again. I will be, as soon as I get information, we'll be sending you out notices of another meeting. Last meeting we had, day before they had the meeting, they canceled it, which didn't set too well with the people. But it is coming up, so I will be handing things out for the Wawa meeting. And lastly, we've had a few problems in the 6th Ward, and the city has helped us. I just want to thank the Board of Health people for coming down for certain things, construction code people who helped out, and of course the DPW and the engineering. Without these people, we'd be in trouble. So as far as councilmen and 6th Ward residents, and I guess any resident, thank you for your help. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sadowski. Moving on at this point, Mr. Sheehy, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. I like to be blunt and brief. This, from the DPW, our recyclables that we collected $6,579.30. Our scrap metal, we barely broke $800 this month. But the good news is we had 2 arrests in the stealing of our scrap. So I'd like to thank the police department for, really working on it. It's very hard for them to catch up with these scrappers because they're on the move. But it's, I think these 2 arrests, and we'll see what happens tomorrow night. Get a couple more, and I think we could shut them down. To the 7th Ward residents, I know I get a lot of questions and calls on the earth care situation. I was trying to keep it on the down low, but basically we're still at the same point we started with, 6 months ago, a year ago, whenever it was. I think we're still at 0 with earth care, and they were supposed to come to an environmental meeting, and that was canceled. And supposedly in the coming weeks we're going to be meeting again with earth care. They're going to come into the council. I've asked the council myself to say, I think this is dead. I mean, this isn't even worth the time that the council has to put into this. I know we need the revenues. I'm all for revenue, but we've been through this too many times with these artificial companies that, they're just on paper. In my eyes, there is no Earth Care. Where is Earth Care? Show me. They don't even have an address. They don't even have a phone number, and we're dealing with them. Basically, what the deal is now, if we give them the contract, they'll form this company. If I'm wrong for saying this, so be it. We're just dragging along with this. We asked for their credentials months and months ago, and we still haven't had them. Our attorneys have written letters to them, for their credentials. We still haven't seen them. And I feel we have a lot of important things, to do up here. And I think we're just going to be spinning our wheels again with this LLC company, so-called Earth Care. So let me move on from there. We're going to be paving Southwood Avenue, which, we all know it needs it. And there's a traffic study in place right now on Style Street where the malls are. Since they've built the mall, there's no other mall with a street going through it that I know of. And the accidents that are on Style Street, we're trying to figure out a number right now on how many accidents there have been, and it's just ridiculous on the amount of accidents for people coming out of that mall. So we're going to have to change the direction of the traffic, make them one-ways, or I don't like the idea of a light there, but we have to come up with something to help the safety of the people. I mean, when these cars are winding up on the lawns, and thank goodness there's no sidewalks there, because if people were walking on a sidewalk, I think we would have fatalities. With the people of the 7th Ward know what we put up with that mall, with the traffic. It's ridiculous, and our traffic department is working on it, and we will resolve it. And I just still have room on my sidewalk list. If anybody needs a sidewalk, please call me right away. If I haven't seen it, please let me know. Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehy. Mrs. Yamakaitis, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start off with the library report. I just want to make mention that we do have some free programs in the city, and I'd like to encourage parents to take advantage of them. One is at the library. We have a brand new library. Let's use it. The summer reading club is starting. It's for the theme of it is Dream Big, Read. The children's room will be having the summer reading program again this year. The summer reading program is going to have something new. It's going to have 2 parts, the summer reading club and the weekly small groups. The reading club, kids will receive stickers. They'll be posted. There's rewards for every 30 minutes that they read. It's a good encouragement to get your kids out to read this summer. And the other one is the weekly small group sessions, which they do need to register for. There's a preschool group, a primary group for age 6, and an elementary group from ages 7 to 9. For more information on these programs, I encourage you to go to the library website, which is www.lindenpl.org, and there's also great adult programs there, so please take advantage of it. Okay, I'd like to also thank the residents who attended my community meeting last week, and a special thank you to Chief Bavono and the other representatives of the police department for coming out and working with the 8th Ward community. I'd like to send out a special thank you to Mr. Al Strydeski, who once again this year worked on cleaning up the monument, planting flowers at Greer and South Park Avenue for Memorial Day. Thank you again for donating your time and your efforts for this. And just one other thing I'd like to mention, because it is getting late. We do have the free summer playgrounds this year, which will be opening this Monday, June 25th. The playground programs in the 8th Ward will be at Milkowski Park and St. Mark's Parks, and the playgrounds are open from 12 to 8 p.m. They are free. There's activities for your kids. Get them out, get them off the streets and into the parks using the playgrounds. Okay, that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giamakaitis. Moving on, Mr. Kozinski, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Council President. The construction code issued 179 permits and processed 120 certificates for a total of $78,671 in May. And the Fire Prevention Bureau collected $3,784.50 for the month of May. The fire department also responded to 501 calls in May. Just to speak quickly on the budget, I'm encouraged to see that 2013 seems to be a buzzword now. I like that a lot. I want to work on 2013 now and get going on it. I have my concerns, but going forward, working now for the future is going to assist us in the future. I had a chance to go to Hawk Rise, and again, I just have to mention this. I was amazed considering where it was and where I thought I was, walking around there and seeing things I didn't think I'd see in Linden if I weren't chasing it out of my backyard or something like that. So it was very amazing to see all the different wildlife there. And some more ward-specific news, I'd like to say, to piggyback off of what Councilman Sadowski said, the scammers that are out there. I had a very, very observant resident contact me Friday night. I want to thank Councilman Sadowski because I actually reached out to him after I spoke to this individual in the police about that specific scam. Somebody calling about a chimney, trying to convince this gentleman that he had a chimney contract with them and that he was overdue and that he was breaking the law. The gentleman was wise enough to realize that doesn't sound smart. Contacted me. I told him to contact the police. I contacted the police. A lot of communication was involved and followed up there. And that's the key to stopping these scams. It's vigilance and communication. So if anybody has a call like that in the 10th Ward and you have the least bit of a concern, call the police, the non-emergency number, and then call me. I'm trying to keep a record of all of it. And if it is a legitimate company, at best, it's poor business habits. And at worst, it's a scam. So either way, don't feel like you ever have to let anybody into your house. If you plan on doing any additions in the 10th Ward, any kind of building variations, please contact the city first. Measure twice and cut once. It applies to a lot of different things in life, and you save a lot of money if you contact first and make sure the permits and everything's are in order. And then you can do that addition, because I do encourage, beautifying your home and adding on, and I just want it to be done the proper way for everybody involved. And county roads in the 10th Ward, Stiles Street and state roads, different things like that. I'm having a little bit of an issue trying to solve some situations that are there, like the trees. As you know, the city can't touch the county trees and different things like that. And I'm working through it, and I want to thank the mayor and some other people that helped with other issues, such as cleaning up the area around St. John's, the church there. It was all overgrown. Got the county out there. I was able to take care of it. Working on trying to get, I believe it's going to be the state to come out and clean the part by Raritan Road there. It's tricky. It's tricky, and I'm very much, I have a concern that certain rights that you have if you live on an inner road that you don't have on a county road, it bothers me a lot. So if you have an issue like that, contact me and I'll put you on a list, and when I'm calling the state and the county and different people trying to make the connections, I'll be sure to include you. With that, I'd like to remind everybody, you can contact me at 908-463-9234 or my email address, akazinski, so it's AKUCZYNSKI at linden-nj.org. For any reason at all. And we'll see what we can do. Thank you, Mr. Council President. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Kozinski. At this time, I'm going to give the 9th Ward Councilman's report. That's my report. We talked, there was some commentary about Hawk Rise. The Hawk Rise Sanctuary was opened officially on May 30th at 11 a.m. in the morning. Again, it's located right off of Lower Road at the intersection of Range Road, where the pistol range is. And I have to say this, that we had roughly 150 people there, some dignitaries from the Department of Environmental Protection, the president of the New Jersey Audubon Society, as well as the vice president was there. And all of these people, I'm sure everyone who attended, roughly 150, were totally amazed at what this complex presently is and what it has become and what it can become later on. Obviously, this was the work of many, particularly getting it ready to get opened, and I too must thank Mr. Al McDonald, Mr. Walter Fichetti, for their personnel who helped us get this program on the road and have the facility open on time. In addition, I'd also like to thank Tony Copland, who happens to be downstairs. Thank you, Tony. He did a lot for us those couple days before and after. It made it a very successful opening. Many people had emailed me, thanked me, since I'm the chair of the landfill, which is part of the Hawkeye Sanctuary. But here's one that I'd like to take the opportunity and read it real quick to you. This was in the New Jersey Star Ledger last week. It was on the editorial page. It's known as Nature's Sanctuary. I just returned from a surprisingly good hike. Remarkably, I didn't have to drive an hour to the Delaware Water Gap or down to the Jersey Shore. I never left my hometown of Linden, New Jersey. Last week, the city of Linden proudly unveiled Hawkeye Sanctuary, a 95-acre nature preserve that promises to bring bird watchers, nature lovers from near and far. How gratifying it is that a tract of wetlands in hardwood forest has been reclaimed and transformed into an opportunity to educate every generation about conservation, bird migration, glacial erratics, and even landfill energy generation, all explained through informative signs that line the 1¼ mile looping trail of gravel and boardwalk. The future expansion promises to be double the length of the trails. My hike started out late in the afternoon with the threat of a thunderstorm rumbling in the distance. Countless birds darted past, and I heard their sounds which filled the air. I also heard the sounds including distant gobbling of what I later saw to be 5 wild turkeys competing with displays of full plumage. Lightning bolts were striking in the distance, but as I entered the enveloping darkness of the hardwood forest, I was protected from the falling raindrops by the dense canopy above. Kudos to the DEP, New Jersey Audubon Society, and most of all, to the city of Linden for making this long talked about possibility reality. I think that sums it up pretty well. So if you have the opportunity, please get down to Hawkrise. You'll find it very interesting. You won't believe when you see the deer, muskrats. I also got word that there's a bald eagle flying around there too, as well as hawks and blue herons and whatever, they're there. Moving on right now, garage sales. My colleague in the second ward had mentioned this. In the last week I noticed, particularly in my ward, a number of garage sales. How did I notice them? Because they put signs on the poles, signs on the corners, signs on public property. This is a no-no. When you go and get your permit, and I hope you do have a permit, it tells you very implicitly, no signs on city poles or light poles or anywhere else on city property advertising garage sales. Unfortunately, many people think about themselves only, leave the signs up for a period of time, and quite frankly, they cause a very disparaging atmosphere within the community. All of our communities have dignity. Let's maintain the dignity of the community. So please, if you're going to have a garage sale, adhere to the ordinance. If not, right now, the police department's been advised to come out and give you summonses. That's one way we'll take care of it. Like my other colleagues, they mentioned this is the time for sidewalks and curbing. I too have a few left, and any of my constituents out there need them, call Bob Fraser at 908-925-0343 or go on to my personal website, which is Councilman Bob Fraser at AOL.com. That concludes my report. Hooray. All right, let's move on. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Move on. Mayor's report. Sorry about that, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to be brief, and it's getting late, but I just want to mention a few things. Number one, the Cultural Committee with Rita Greco, the Mystic Vision Players are performing Tommy. It's a quality production. It's July 20th, 21st, 22nd, 26th, 27th, and 28th. Tickets can be obtained 486-4144, my office, or mysticvisionplayers.com. Again, I think it's important that you support the Cultural Committee and the hard work that the Mystic Vision Players do to put on this quality performance. Also, we're having the Mayor's Youth Commission is going to be having project graduation Friday night, which is always an annual event that is performed for the young kids who graduate Linden High School, so we keep them out of mischief on graduation night. That's a drug and alcohol-free night where we take them to a racquetball club in Edison, and they're out till 4 o'clock in the morning under supervision by adult volunteers who stay out there till 4 o'clock also. This is an excellent program, again, all committed by volunteers at no expense to the taxpayer, all donations from the corporate community and fundraisers. And quite honestly, just to show you the cost factor, it runs us every year between $30,000 and $35,000. So this is something that's a tremendous benefit to our children who are going into the adult careers after they graduate Friday at 10 o'clock at the athletic field. Just to add on for Hawk Rise, if you want to go take a little peek at what Hawk Rise is all about, go to LindenTV, and you could see a 20-minute vignette which was videoed by Bradley Kazanza. He's our new mobile video producer, and he did a tremendous job. It's on Linden TV. We've had the very good fortune of having New Star. That's a corporation on the other side of the New Jersey Turnpike. They deal with aviation fuel and other petroleum products. They volunteered a landscaper to landscape Monday free of charge much of our property at the Linden Library. Again, this is what corporations are all about. This is the good rapport we have with all our corporations. They want to be active in our community, and they did a beautiful job landscaping it at no charge to the city of Linden. So I'd like to recognize and thank New Star. We also have Phillips 66, which is the old ConocoPhillips Bayway Refinery. They just earned EPA's Energy Star certification for 2012. They're only one of 9 refineries in the country to earn this designation, and it's for energy efficiency that meets strict energy efficiency performance levels set by the EPA. Again, another good corporate neighbor to the city of Linden. We also are going to have the honor on June 30th of hosting at St. Teresa's a Mass for Cardinal Stanislaus Zevish. He was Pope John Paul's, who passed away, his right-hand man, and between Pope John Paul II and Cardinal Zevich, they were very instrumental subtly to have that Berlin Wall knocked down through their dealings with the German people and the international community. So it's a great honor for His Eminence to be in the city of Linden, and that's going to be on June 30th at St. Teresa's. I just want to quickly also mention, and again, it's too late to debate any issue, but I respectfully disagree with my colleague in the 7th Ward concerning earth care. I ask everyone to keep an open mind to this corporation. It's $750,000 guaranteed if it's sited in Linden, up to $1.5 million, which would come in very handily in relieving the tax burden on Linden residents, which we all know from this last budget presentation is we need revenues coming in to offset the residential taxes. There will be EPA and DEP approved, but again, it's something that we should have learned our lesson from with the incinerator that the city of Linden could have had, and now it's 5 blocks into Rawway. We still have all the garbage trucks going there, and the city of Rawway gets $2.2 million and free tipping fees, and that could have been in Linden, but it was turned down and sited only a couple of blocks away from the Linden line. So again, I'd just like everybody to keep an open mind in that regard, and end of report, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now we're moving on. All right, we're going to go into resolutions. Public comments will be permitted for those specific resolutions to be removed from the consent approval. Please read the synopsis of the resolution which has been prepared by the City Clerk's office. Each is informative and self-explanatory. However, if you wish to address a specific resolution, the council will entertain questions on it.
Council President?
Yes.
Prior to going to the public, I would ask that I make a motion to table Resolution 2012-270, and I would ask for a second.
All right. Why don't you add 2012, 253 and 254 also?
Those aren't being tabled, those are being removed. Those aren't being tabled, those are being removed from consideration.
I apologize on that, just 270.
Yeah, just 270.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. President?
Roll call on that?
Okay.
I need, who was the second on that?
Second. We need a second.
I need a second.
Second on that, please. The table that.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
No.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. President? I'd like to request that we remove resolutions number 253 and 254 from consideration. I request a second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. All right, do we have any questions on any of the other resolutions?
What is her name?
No. Mr. Stefanovich.
44.
Yes, Mr. Stefanovich. Ms. Hero.
236 and 224 and 271.
Ms. Malik. Are there any others out there, please, that require to talk on any of them? All right, I'd like to have a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolutions number 2012-227 through 2012-272, with the exceptions of 236, 240, 244, 246, 271, and 272, and I'd like to request a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. All right, Ms. Hero, 212, 236.
I'm curious about this. Didn't we used to just maybe have local sales with regard to this? Is this a way that we can go on the internet to get more business, or were we not doing enough, or how did this work beforehand?
Mr. Frazier?
When we
Behind
sold
you.
equipment?
Yes. A lot of this is the bicycles and some of the other stuff that the police department collects. In the past, they used to have to collect the stuff. They would have to store it on site. Then they would run an auction, I think, every 6 months. It involved using police officers to run at auctions on Saturdays, etc. This way, the material gets turned over on a regular basis to the property room. They put it up, and they're responsible for selling it and shipping it and everything.
So are we going to be making more money, or are we going to, is it going to be break even, or how's it going to work out
I
financially
believe it's
for
been
us?
going on for a couple of years now. This isn't the first year. I think we've been doing a lot better selling it, and we've gotten rid of the stuff. We've eliminated the need to store the stuff in the city of Linden and tying up police officers' time in dealing with a lot of it, with running the auctions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hero. Motion, please.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 236 and request a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
You went to,
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
yes. Ms. Malik, 212, 240, please.
Can someone tell me how is this number developed for this budget for SID? And the monies that, the 125,000 close to that, is it actually being used for, or is that money being used for actual projects? And can people tell me what projects would be?
This is the introduction, excuse me, Mrs. Malley. This is the introduction of their budget.
Right.
It has to have a hearing next month where it may be more appropriate to ask those questions at the public hearing on the budget. But this money is raised through the tax on the Special Improvement District, the area on Wood Avenue.
Okay, and you can't give me any idea on the types of projects?
Again, I'll have
Okay.
copies of the budget and stuff for you,
If you can do
tomorrow.
that. All right, thanks.
Okay?
Thank you, Ms. Malik. Motion on 240, please.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 2012-240 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel? Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
No.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. 212, 244, Mr. Noble, please.
Good evening, Council. Tom Noble, 2511 Orchard Terrace.
I am a vice president of Linden Industrial Association, also a trustee of the Linden Economic Development Corporation. I'd like to express my support for this particular resolution to fund the LEDC. I know there are some concerns on the part of council that there's not been a lot of economic development in town of late. Unfortunately, that's a sign of the times within the city, the state, and even the national issue. But the LEDC has been working hard on a number of different issues that, when things turn around, will be poised to do a lot of good things in Linden. Namely, the connector road to the turnpike, which will free up a lot of Tremley Point area and also reduce the traffic in the 7th Ward. The LEDC has worked on a coexistence policy. A lot of times when we're looking at projects, a lot of these environmentalists will come up with all these claims of how things are going to be destroyed in the environment because something's being done. Well, Ron Stefanowitz has actually put together, using data that is given to the DEP, to prove that most of these claims are unfounded, and it's doing it with fact, not hearsay, which is very helpful in trying to get these things turned around. And finally, the LEDC has developed the strategic vision. It was done in conjunction with Rutgers University. It's got buy-in from both industry in town. A number of the community groups have been involved in the presentation of this thing. It's something that the council should probably adopt at some point in time also. And the thing about the strategic vision is the state of New Jersey economic development is actually looking for this kind of plan going forward, so that when they're doling out money for projects, they're looking to see that a town will have a strategic vision and has a plan on how to address the needs and the wants of that city going forward. And we've already got this in place, and it lines up beautifully what the state is looking for. So I'd like to express my support for this particular resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Noble. Mr. Stefanovich, please.
Ron Stefanowitz, 1123 Federico Court. I'm here as a resident, as also the Director of Economic Development, and I'm also representing some of the city industry that left a little bit earlier. As you can see, things are getting late. They wanted an opportunity to talk to the council at caucus, but again, the schedule of things that were going on, they didn't get an opportunity, but they would like to reschedule to come in to talk to council. I know that there are some issues, that there are some council people don't fully support LEDC, but the trustees would like to see that turn around. It's not clear what the issues are. We'd like to understand what the issues are and would like to get them resolved. This evening, it was very encouraging to hear that you'll start on the budget at 2013. This council has a fiduciary responsibility to bring in sustainability into this city. And the way that is going to be done is controlling cost, and on the other side, bringing development to this city. Now, the LEDC budget, in comparison to some of our competitors who are in Westfield, Clark, and others, spend more money on that program, and they are successful. Now, I'm not asking for any more money that is in a resolution. The LEDC treasurer submitted a budget to the Finance Committee, which was cut drastically, which cut a lot of the things that would have moved a lot of the programs forward. But given what it is, what we're looking for is to partner in getting this city where it should be with sustainability. You work on your control of your cost and support LEDC to bring development to this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stefanovich. Also on that same resolution, Ms. Hero.
It's interesting Ms. Malik mentioned 240 because we don't hear anybody complaining about the special improvement district and how there are a lot of still empty storefronts on Wood Avenue, but we sure raise a lot of you know what about the LEDC, and maybe they're not doing so much. Well, excuse me, here we have the Special Improvement District budget, $124,277. LEDC budget, $65,000. Well, we get a lot more than what we pay for. We get Ron Stefanowitz, who's done a great job with the LEDC. He has a lot of industry contacts, and a lot of industry contacts continuously come out and support him. They wouldn't be supporting him if he wasn't doing a good job. A lot of this is connections, and believe me, Ron Stefanowitz has those connections. Haven't heard people complain about Ron Stefanowitz either, except for maybe some members of the city council. Maybe they want to put somebody else in. I don't know. Maybe they do. But believe me, they wouldn't work for $65,000. Ron Stefanowitz is a bargain. You double that, Ron Stefanowitz would still be a bargain. Times are tough in this economy. They still are. And yeah, a lot of development is still waiting to take effect. The fact is, thanks to the mayor and thanks to Ron Stefanowitz, General Motors, we don't have that tax litigation. You seem to have forgotten about that. And yeah, while I do back ShopRite in their fight, I believe they should litigate if that's what they want to do. We still have, when the litigation is over with, they have Duke Realty, and we have development coming. And Ron, of course, I didn't approve of this, but we have the Transit Village. I didn't approve of that, but that's another thing Ron was instrumental in doing. And yet, you say he hasn't done anything? I think he's done a lot. Perhaps you just better wake up and realize that and not go political on him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hero. Ms. Malik, same resolution.
Everything that I wanted to say has already been said by the first two individuals, and I agree, and thank you for Patty's comments. Having worked or been on the steering committee for the strategic vision, I'm well aware of the projects that the LEDC has been working on, and so I give my full support for this resolution. So that's all I want to say at this time. Well aware, I'm just repeating myself, of what is entailed. And as Ron said, you have to curtail your budget, but also you have to bring in the projects. And you've got to take a close look at what these projects are. And you're talking about big bucks coming in here. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Malik. Motion, please.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 2012-244 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colbus.
Yes.
Koziel.
Yes.
Brown.
No.
Armstead.
Yes.
Cosby Hurling.
No.
Sadowski.
Yes.
Sheehy.
Yes.
Yamakaitis.
Yes.
Kaczynski.
Yes.
Mr. Frazier.
Yes. All right. Mr. Stefanovich, resolution 2012-246, sir.
Thank you, Council President. Just becoming aware this week of this resolution, I'm flattered that someone appointed me to another committee with the county. I enjoy working with them, and we have a great relationship and get a lot accomplished. But I'm not aware of this. No one had approached me, and I would like to see it tabled, and I'd like to find out more about what it is, because, you know, at the current time, I'm involved in doing about 4 or 5 different jobs. But I'd like to know more about it, so I'd like to see this be pulled and learn more about what this is all about and how my name got on a resolution.
Thank you for that.
Just have them make a motion to table. Have them make a motion.
Mr. President?
Let's have a motion of pulling that, please.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we pull 2012-246 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colbus.
Yes.
Koziel.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Armstead.
Yes.
Cosby Hurling.
Yes.
Sadowski.
Yes.
Sheehy.
Yes.
Yemakaitis.
Yes.
Kaczynski.
Yes.
Mr. Frazier.
Yes.
Council President, can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I did not make that appointment or recommendation. It was a councilmanic appointment. Who put his name up if nobody even had the courtesy to ask him to serve?
Wasn't me.
Does anybody in council put his name up?
Was it the council president? I'm assuming by process of elimination.
Did anyone put his name up? Let's go. Yes, no, or what?
No.
No. Apparently no.
Okay, let's move on.
The Phantom Council, whatever. Okay. Uh, 271, Ms. Hero.
She didn't want him staying at home. 271.
Who is going to be on the investigatory committee? Who's going to decide the members of this investigatory committee?
Who was on it?
Yes.
All right, fine. It's Councilman Kaczynski, Councilman Sheehy, Councilwoman Cosby Hurling, Councilman Mr. Koziol. All right, that's on the investigatory committee.
Okay, and how long will it take for them to investigate and,
That'll be up to the committee.
okay? Just,
They
And
haven't
there are-
met yet, so.
they haven't met yet, okay? It just seems to me that sometimes, I think everybody should look at things with, Samir says, although I'll address that at the public portion, an open mind. People should not jump to conclusions and suspect things of others before a full investigation is conducted. That's all I have to say about that. Let's not turn this into a witch hunt, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hero. Ms. Malik?
Council President.
You don't want to comment on that? Fine. All right, 272, Ms. Malik.
No, we got to take a vote on
Oh,
271.
I'm sorry, forgive me.
Council
Come up
President.
and sit anyway. Let's take a vote on
Councilman
271.
Brown's calling you Council President.
Okay.
Motion
Mr.
on
President?
271.
Okay. I move for approval of Resolution
I wanna say
2012.
something.
You want to say something?
He wanted to say something.
No, Councilman, I would suggest this is a resolution appointing investigatory committee that council limit its comments because it's nature of the matter.
It's real quick.
Councilman, again, I am advising that council limit its comments. You're appointing an investigatory committee, and it is better to limit comments and let the committee appointed do its job without any comments being made from council regarding a sensitive matter.
All right. Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution 2012-271 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Do I have to abstain on this? Okay, I have to abstain, but I abstain.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. All right, 212, 272, Ms. Malik.
I may have my answer. Alexis, when you were giving some information on the budget, you had said that when some debt is retired, we're not going to be increasing like our debt. And you had said something about the issuance of the $10 million. Is this in reference to that?
No, actually, that was bond anticipation notes. What this refers to is tax anticipation notes. In light of the issues with Trenton right now, not knowing if they're going to certify state aid, normally July 1st we'll have a state aid payment come in, a substantial amount of state aid. Right now, we're not sure when that state aid payment's going to come or when the state aid's going to be certified. So in the event that we need to have cash, would issue what's called tax anticipation notes. Again, it would be a very short-term borrowing in the event that we do not get state aid and/or the estimated tax bills out by the end of this upcoming month. So this is
Okay.
in order to meet our cash flow obligations for payroll, debt service, and so forth.
All right. So, and once again, if we do pass this resolution and we do get the aid, then this just becomes like null and void?
Correct. We wouldn't
Okay.
go to borrow it.
Okay, and we're not going to, keep it in our back pocket and use it for a rainy day?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Nope, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malik.
right.
Motion on 272.
Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution 2012-272 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown? Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. Ordinances on first reading. Council will, in order to take into consideration public input into the proposed ordinances, will allow 3 minutes for each individual to speak on an ordinance on first reading. Council will not answer any questions, and everyone is reminded that the public hearing on each of these ordinances will be held at next month's council meeting. Ordinance number 5636.
Bond ordinance providing for an appropriation of $50,000 for citywide curb and sidewalk reconstruction and authorizing the issuance of $47,500 in bonds or notes for financing same.
Any questions on this ordinance? If not, we'll introduce a motion to introduce the ordinance, please.
I'd like to introduce ordinance 5636, and I seek a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. Ordinance 5637.
Bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $440,000 for sanitary sewer improvements and authorizing the issuance of $418,000 in bonds or notes for financing same.
Any public comments on this? Seeing none, I'll introduce a motion for the ordinance, please.
Council President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 5637 on first reading and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. Ordinance 5638.
Bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $106,500 for acquisition of a remount ambulance for the fire department and authorizing the issuance of $101,175 in bonds or notes for financing same.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, motion, please.
Mr. Council President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 5638 on first reading and seek a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. 5639, please.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 55-39, authorizing the leasing of portion of property commonly known as Old Firehouse Number 1, 201 Southwood Avenue, Block 450, Lot 9.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, motion, please.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to introduce ordinance 5639 and seek a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes. All right, moving on now to the public comment section of our meeting. All right, I will call the names, and remember, on the public comment, no personal, political, derogatory, or unkind comments not to exceed 5 minutes. Ms. Hero, please.
Ms. Hero, we Chief Road always feels that her First Amendment rights are somewhat chilled whenever she hears that statement. The time is now 10:44 p.m. Do you know where Councilman Peter Brown's biography is? Not on the city's website, that's for sure. Mr. Brown, even a resume would be nice. We'd just like to know more about you and your accomplishments and what you've done and what you intend to do in the city. Everybody else has a bio up there. I'd like yours to be up there too. Now, I want to say, Mr. Gary Luciano has always done a fine job with the concerts. However, this year, I think he's even exceeded that. He's not a man, I guess, to rest on his laurels, because I've taken a look at the concert schedule. And by the way, they have some dance nights coming up too. He's really gone above and beyond this year. And I want to say how much I appreciate that and how much I think we're all going to be looking forward to that summer concert series. I know I definitely am. And also, I've got to give him kudos. There's only one night that I may have to miss a city council meeting. I won't tell you which ones, because heaven knows what you would do without me here. But I really look forward to the series. Now, I've given some of you specifics on how to cut the budget. And I guess we will wait to see what happens with that. I think we also take for granted a large number of our public employees. Now, granted, in a way, I don't want to see anybody lose their jobs, but if their jobs aren't necessary, maybe it wouldn't hurt. Maybe we should take a little harder look at each and every position that we have. Long time ago, I thought we could get a state audit done. I guess maybe they don't do that anymore. But we should look long and hard. I know we're really hamstrung by civil service, but maybe we could do something. So a lot of people are hurting out there. Now, as far as the mayor goes, he wants us to keep an open mind on Earth Care. I don't think his mind is open. I think he's looking too hard at the revenues coming in. I don't think he's taking into consideration everything that there is. At this time, it has to be an open mind. You can't be so blinded by dollar signs that you don't see problems that may exist. PureGen looked like a good idea too, and we looked at all that money, and now that's a dead project. We really don't want to have a company come in and maybe not be able to fulfill what they want, or maybe leave problems behind. So I think we should take a long, hard look at Earth Care and not just be blinded by dollar signs. And I want to finish up. How much time do I have?
Well, let's say you're almost finished.
30 seconds.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to have to say, I will talk about probably property taxes next month, because believe me, a lot of us out here are still hurting. And for some of you who are getting a large amount of your salaries from derived from property tax revenues, all I want to say is, let's not just look at municipality. Let's look at the Board of Education and the county too. Maybe we could send a representative from the city council to look at the county and check out Union County Watchdog Association. Tina Wren is doing a great job of that website. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hero. Ms. Malik?
She left.
Ms. Malik left. Jacqueline Williams? She's not here. John Roman?
Hello, John Roman, Summit Street. I'd just like to start by congratulating Mr. Caballos on his re-election. Just like TV, I don't believe all I read and see on TV. TV and newspapers are operated by politicians, lawyers, and corporations who control these mediums. You had my support because you at least listened to me, good or bad. I'm sure it was tough enough for you. In the next election for your seat, you'll have to do a better job in our ward for my support. Talking about control, the Supreme Court says more lawyers and politicians that it's okay for Walmart to move to the GM property. In Mexico, a few months ago, they also tried to get their way there as well. with bribes and payoffs. And the media on that story dried up quick. I wonder why senior citizen buses were told to go to other stores than ShopRite. I just wonder what's going on behind closed doors here in the city of Linden. Walmart has 2 stores, a gas station already combined. I'd say the 2 stores are a super Walmart after they move what's left. 2 more empty stores in Linden, along with the 3 empty ones now, National Liquidators, the old Pathmark, the old Stop and Shop that was made into 2 stores and it didn't survive. I say to you now, there is one thing that the Sam's Club and the Walmarts don't have that the super Walmarts do, and that's a beauty parlor. I think it's safe to say there's going to be more vacant shops on Wood Ave in the city's future. Volunteers. I'm glad to see that the mayor is looking for volunteers and getting the residents of Linden involved more. However, with the training of residents, which I'm sure isn't cheap, the volunteering I'd like to see are by the paid workers of the Linden departments. By volunteering of their time, you in turn put them at the head of the line for various overtimes. Not the people who always get the overtime simply because they are family and friends of certain city officials. Yes, I'm sure that there are laws and regulations that exist that say they can't do that, but hey, you're politicians and lawyers. How about changing some of those laws and regulations? Also, in closing, let me say I'm glad to see that the mayor is finally singing the praises of the fire department. Do you think we could get those firemen back in here that were rehired some months ago so the mayor could congratulate them on camera? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. That concludes our public comment session. Pardon me. Is your name on here? No, I'm sorry, sir. That's why we put it up in front. Okay? All right. At this particular time, I'm going to announce our next meeting. Council conference meeting prior to the council meeting. Tuesday, July 17 at 6 p.m. in the council conference room, City Hall. Council meeting Tuesday, July 17 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers, City Hall, 301 Northwood Avenue. Motion to adjourn, please.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Excuse me.